This is about you, me, we, and our untapped potential. This is the huge upside.
Hey everyone, we just like to formally apologize that we've been AWOL for like the past month, but I promise you, we have not disappeared in the face of this earth because here we are. Probably the first ever episode is 2023. Yeah, know what I'm saying? And I just like to thank you guys for still listening to us. Wow, our third year around, this podcast has meant so much to me. I mean, me, like, I'd like to separate myself from the podcast because it's a platform and hopefully see this podcast one day, someday, somebody else host it because my voice is kind of getting boring around these parts. But hey, like, people still,
Nah, bro, your voice sounds amazing, bro. I want to put that out there. I want the world to know that your voice sounds great.
thank you, I'm flattered. Well, that voice right there, Pizza Palace, is on the other side of the world. Are you in Atlanta, by the way?
Right now, I'm in Brooklyn. Yes, but my heart is
Brooklyn?
in Atlanta too. My heart is also
Right.
in the Philippines.
For sure. That's what's up. And I forgot to introduce you because I suck at introductions. But for formality's sake, rate me how I introduce you, okay? Because I haven't done like a formal introduction, and I'd like Pizza Palace to be the first one to give me a 5 out of 5 critic. So here it goes. Coming fresh off a 23 stop tour across the Philippines with Mike Swift, and of course with the likes of working alongside with future Soulja Boy, Ti, Fat Joe, is Pizza Palace, and is now using this momentum. See, I suck at this intro, so how would you have
Bro,
done
I
it, bro?
think I think it was great, you
Really?
know? You know what I think is always the best kind of intros is the authenticity.
Right.
And I feel like when people feel the authenticity, it's cool. And what I love is like you were just very transparent and vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I think that makes this a special moment because there will never ever be another first interview. So I give it a 5 out of 5, bro.
Thanks, man. You're being too kind, but hey, welcome, welcome to the huge upside. So, first and foremost, I would just like to welcome you to the show, and I'm still flattered why some producer all the way from across now he says in Brooklyn would want to be on this show, and obviously he's trying to promote something. These producers, and I'm still flattered that people still come to this show like to share their stories. And here he is, Pizza Palace. Thank you and welcome to this
Thank you so
podcast.
much.
But I'm I'm still baffled by your real name. What is your real name? It can't be Pizza Palace. Are you ready to disclose that though?
When I was born, you know, like on my official birth certificate it says Pizza Palace. First name Pizza, last name Palace. No, no, I'm playing.
I
No,
was
it's
about
not.
to play that. Ah,
Bro, but that'd be such a cool story, huh?
sure.
Like I wish. I wish. Yeah, so my real name is Lewis, so people either call me P Pizza, Lewis, like whatever you're vibing with, really. So whatever
Loopy.
feels good to you, bro, we rock with it, you know?
Yeah.
So
Well, pizza's cool. That's such a
yeah.
cool name though. So
Thank you. I appreciate that.
you you've been producing songs all your life, or you've been an artist all your life, or a creative? Like,
Yeah,
tell tell
yeah,
people
that's
more
a good
about you,
question.
man. Like,
Yeah, for sure. Number one, also, like before we get started too, I want to touch on something you said earlier.
yeah,
The reason why I wanted to join your show, bro, like one of the reasons is because like you just have a good energy, man, and I feel like that is the most important thing. Like outside of everything, I feel like I'm a big believer that people's souls are very intelligent, and so like I think there's a reason why people gravitate towards your stuff, just because of your energy, bro, and that's why. So I want that to be known, and I want that to be known out in the ecosystem.
please do.
So I just wanted to start it off like
Please
that.
do.
So,
We could use like
so
any bit of leverage, or some endorsement from anybody right now. But hey, thanks.
yeah, absolutely, bro. Over here, we care less about the this is something I'm sure that you've run into, other artists run into. There's such a like hype culture that exists in like the music industry, bro. And like to me, I'm like there's the group that can chase the hype, and
Yeah,
then and that's cool. I get it. That's like also part of like the industry, right?
Right.
But then like when people chase like just like the good vibes, the good energy, that's what creates the hype because that's what everyone really wants. People just want good energy. They want to have a safe community and that sort of thing, and it comes from like the core group of people, and that's why like a lot of people, I've told you this like off camera, but like a lot of people keep saying good things about you, and I was like, bro, I got to spend time with this guy. So
Really.
this is
I must have done
this is it.
something good
Yeah.
in this life.
Possibly, bro.
Yeah.
Maybe a few things. So,
Yeah, cuz
but
like
yeah. So,
yeah, aside from like all these good stuff like praises and like accolades, like I mean, I always have to keep a level head. You know what I mean? Like, because when you have it good, it's always due for something bad, and it's like the paradox of life,
the
like good
highs
and
and the
bad,
lows.
yin and yang. So like I've had a lot of pushback, like last year until this year. Hearing stuff like
Yeah.
that just makes my day.
Bro,
Thanks.
and I want to say this too. It's like the highs and the lows of life, kind of what you're saying. This is my opinion. I feel like as creatives, it's kind of our job to have a voice and have a perspective and lens on life. And I feel like the more we get a chance to live life, the more we have to talk about, right? So it's like if I've only lived the highs in my life, I can't really
Right.
talk about the lows. If I've only lived the lows in my life, I can't really talk about the highs. But when we have that whole spectrum of like just going through some BS, but then also coming out of it, but then going back into some BS like
Right.
we have more things to talk about, and I think it carries through in people's voices. So like it's like I think there's this quote that I love to say is like things don't happen to us, they happen for us. And I'm like a big believer of that. So it's
Oh,
100% because
believer
it's
of that.
like it's like for example something bad can happen, but there's always in my opinion there's always a lesson in something. And like sometimes it's so severe, if I don't find the positive out of it, it'll take me out. Like it's like mental health wise or physically, you get what I'm saying? Like we really
Yeah.
have to dig deep and find, hey, what's that gem in there that we can make it be positive for us you know
Yeah. That optimism.
and we're still realistic too, because we know more bad stuff is going to happen. That's just the way life is. Like life will come, but
Yeah.
it's like we're
Yeah.
not naive, but we also know that like,
Yeah.
hey, when it comes, we're gonna make it work. Like it's just be patient with us sometimes. So
Yeah, and sometimes like you don't get to relax. Like I don't get to relax. I just told you like I've been off like a rough week. Not really a rough week, but this is like probably like the first 3 hours like I get to actually sit down and talk to somebody on a podcast. Like I said, I haven't done like a podcast
mm,
set in like 2 weeks. So what I do like similar to your show, like the peer pressure podcast. So like I sit on other podcasts as well. Like not just not just on the podcast huge upside, but also like cultivate
mhm,
other podcasts, like hop on their shows or like help them build from the ground up, like show them like the ropes and stuff. And like I've
fire.
like done that for like the last one was around 2 weeks ago, so I have like a long rest, but I was pulled in another direction, and then finally I get some peace time right here. So thanks.
Fire, man, of course,
Yeah,
bro. Like yeah, and also shout out to I don't know. Shout out to the fact that hey, you make it a point to support the homies and people
sure.
around and that sort of thing. And I feel like the same energy you give to other people, like you're giving to yourself today, and like that's also healthy too.
Yeah,
So
you know what? That's not a common thing around these parts. Like that talk of mental health and like self talk, like that's still a taboo in the Philippines,
100%.
man.
Yeah, man, I completely understand that. I feel like in Asian culture, like as a whole too, right? It's kind of like there's like the Confucian kind of influence and that sort of thing where we don't listen to our emotions. Like the
Yeah,
ideal man like handles their emotions. It does. You
yeah.
get what I'm saying? Like there's so many of those kind of the ideas float. And I understand like when a person is in a time of war and stuff, there's no time to talk about feelings. There's no time. You like, bro,
Suck it
like
up.
hey bro, they're coming, we gotta go. Like I understand you're scared, we gotta run right now, bro. Like that's like a war mentality. So there's a reason why our countries have that, because we come from a culture of warriors and like people of strength, right? And we also have to understand there's a difference from getting from surviving and fighting to actually living.
Right.
So the mindset of point A to point B, hey, it's always going to be important because that's how we survive. But now when we have an opportunity to go from point B to point C, let's give ourselves that energy so we can build more
Right.
for our community. So I'm like a big believer of that. So it's a transition I believe our generation is
Yeah.
going through
The bit
specifically,
we're like
and
probably like the bigger persons here, like because we know all this stuff, like get to apply it ourselves, like
yeah,
end the cycles here and there,
yeah.
and then
100%, 100%, and I feel like honestly, as people in the creative industry, we have an opportunity to normalize these things. I think, like, especially when I was younger, I was going through a lot of stuff, bro. Like, I had so many issues growing up and things like that. Like, my neighborhood was kind of crazy. Like, it's not like anyone was really reaching
I
out and
heard
being like
like
mentally
you had
supportive
to
or
like
anything, right? So,
join some communities just to survive.
let's say that the communities were very accepting of my presence. You get what I'm saying? And like, I'm very thankful for that. Like, they were always showed a lot of love, and I feel like going through certain experiences, it just made me realize, hey, like, for the next generation, I would love for them not to have to go through like the mind. We have strong minds, but then, like, I've seen so many strong minds when they're pushed to the extreme limit, like it can
Yeah,
break and then people just go crazy, right? So it's like, I want to normalize it so people in the next generation in our communities and things like that, they can um they know there's an alternative way to live, and like um that's why, like, and we talked about this actually off camera
yeah.
too. I've been behind the scenes in music for a while, and I'm like,
You've
bro,
seen
like,
everything.
I would, if I'm ever in front of the camera, it's because there's a reason to, like, I don't want to just come out here and just be like, hey bro, look at me on some like ego stuff, right? Like, that's cool. Like, maybe if I was like like, when we're younger, we want to be acknowledged, we want to be seen, and it's
Be
always important to
validated.
be seen. But if that's the whole,
Be
I'm sorry, go ahead.
validated.
Yeah,
Yeah,
100%, and that's important. Like, we always want to be seen, but I can do that like in private. Like, if that's my only reason to be outside, right? But like, my goal is to acknowledge certain social norms, and maybe, hey, if we have certain things that are a little bit unhealthy, could we shift it to a healthier place? I don't know everything, but like, in the areas that I do know, that's where I want to kind of push, in terms of when I create content
100%.
and things
Like
like
if
that.
there's ever a good reason to finally come out of somewhere, it's got to be for some bigger purpose, and that is stuff like you actually
Yes.
like want to talk about, like m- immigrant communities over there, um, minorities. You mean
Oh,
yeah, like
yeah.
the minorities? You mean like? Can you talk about that? And
Yeah.
we actually have like forgotten like the first initial question of us, like bringing us why you started off with music, but
Bro, yeah, yeah. I'm actually being a very bad guest. I'm being
no,
like a politician,
no
hopping over
worries.
all types of
I mean, this is
bro.
this is how
Yeah.
a podcast should actually go. Like doesn't have to be
Fire, like, more
yeah.
organic.
Um, but
Yeah, I'm down, bro.
yeah, so you do like going back to like you were a producer and artist all your life, but since when did and then you finally get to come out of the behind the scenes to talk about something which is bigger than art and music, which is fighting for a cause.
Yeah, like, so basically, when I was behind the scenes in the music, it was like, I chose to do that because, like, people were trying to bring me in front of the camera and things like that. But I specifically knew that, kind of, once you're in front of the camera, it's kind of like you broke that
Right.
seal. You know what I mean? Especially when things kind of get big. Because, like, bro, I was like with all the songs that were kind of happening and stuff. I would not even be on the camera that often, and like, I'd be trying to work out at the gym, and people be like, "Hey, bro, it's you." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, this is cool." Like, I'm like very honored, but at the
Can you
same time,
handle it
like,
though?
I'm like
Is
sweaty,
there like
huh?
can you do you feel like you can handle it though the spotlight of like being recognized in the street?
I think back then, because of how dangerous our neighborhood was, there was just a lot of anxiety because I was just like, bro, who are you? Like, what's up? What's your
Right.
intentions? Like, that sort of energy. You know what I mean? So I'm always kind of like, I was very cautious, not because I want to be mean, but just because it's
Right.
realistic, like, it's very practical. You know what I mean? And now, I'm understanding better how to navigate that, and things like that. And now I'm also in a different place in life where it's like I've been able to be in different environments, be in different spaces where also the energy is different too, right? So it's like, and now I can even go back to these places and kind of normalize more positive energy. You know what I mean? Like, so to answer your question, back then I don't think so, and I think that's why I don't think I think I subconsciously knew I
Right.
wasn't ready, and that's why I stayed away from it. I knew there were more skill sets I needed to develop, and I think now at this point I feel a lot more
Because I
comfortable.
always
I've been
because it's really bothering me. Like some folks, like what they usually say when I invite them over on a podcast, they they usually say like, you know what, like I haven't put in enough reps, or like I haven't built the reputation to have an opinion. Because I always thought of it like that, like they would shy away from an opportunity because they think they weren't ready. But was that also the case? Like, man, I think I haven't done shit yet, so like, yeah, let's not go out.
oh oh I think at that point we had done, like, my resume at that point was business and music. So that's kind of like what I was known for in my
Right.
neighborhood. So like, and I almost make the argument that if an artist feels that way, like, hey, maybe my resume is not big enough, and where I feel confident enough to share it, then build it. You know what I mean? Build it and then put it out there. And also make the argument, hey, like, your community has a voice that they want to hear or they want to be spoken
Right.
for. So I always say that it's less about reputation in
Right.
my opinion, and it's more about genuineness, right? So if I talk with like people in my neighborhood, and I talk on certain things and I realize that it resonates, that means it's hitting their heart because it was like a real honest experience for them. That probably means a few other people went through that experience too. So I think less than the reputation, if you hit on something that's true and honest, it's going to resonate. So that would be my recommendation for any artist that might feel that way. Is take time to develop your voice, bro. Like, that's just as much as the creative process. Like, I spent a lot of years just trying to get better at music theory, mixing, like composition, song arrangement, all this stuff. There's all the technical side to it, right? But then once you have that skill set of creating a feeling, because that's actually the end goal of all that. My job is to give you a feeling through the music. What kind of feeling do I want? What's my voice that I want to create? And honestly, like, that's the part that takes a long time. Spend time to live life. Like, we
Yeah.
have to live a little bit of life to have something to say, right? We have to go through some
Yeah.
struggles, like what we were talking about,
That's where you
right?
get the
Because it's like, if
inspiration
i've
too.
if I've just lived comfortably my whole life, I'm missing out on like telling half of the story. Half the story is about struggling. Like, the journey is the goal type of thing, right? So yeah, that's actually, hold on, like I said, that my job is to create.
For sure.
If you're a musician, all right, this is what I would recommend for anyone out there. Let me grab this thing.
All
Yes,
right,
it's right on my
everybody,
wall.
pay attention to
Me,
this.
me, me and Nick Makino actually had this conversation.
Okay.
So like, okay, so this is something I always keep on my wall. And let's say you put time into your technical skills, right? Like, you have all your technical skills, you understand sound design and stuff, and we can always get better at it. But like, you're at like a good level where you feel comfortable with everything, right? Now it's about curation and having good creative choices to create an end goal. So, what I always do is, before I make a song, I say, what is my end goal in terms of a feeling? And I look at this thing. This thing is called a feels wheel. This is actually a therapy tool, right? And so the thing is that the inside circles is like the most basic emotions, like very broad: sad, happy,
General.
surprised, bad, fearful, very
Yeah.
general, right? That's like the very core emotions, right? But then every emotion has a nuance to it. There's something very special about it. So even what we call quote unquote negative feelings is like a very special thing because it helps us cope with
It's still
things, right?
valid.
So maybe I'm angry, right? It's still valid, and we have to acknowledge it and talk about it in a healthy
Yeah.
way. Like, it's so we should never apologize for how we feel, but we also have to be very self-aware in communicating it
Right.
out in a healthy way, right? And that's my job as a musician, or any musician, I
The
think, at the
job of
highest
art.
level. So, job of art, bro. A
That's
hundred
art.
percent, right? Even podcasts, we're normalizing
Yeah.
ways to talk about stuff, right here, right? So it's like any conversation. Like I also want to encourage anyone who's not on a creative platform or anything. If you're in a circle of friends, you have the power to normalize certain
Yeah.
behaviors, but that takes a skill set. So we have to
That's also an art.
practice it. Anyways, bro, I feel like a professor or some stuff right now. I got like a little board and everything, bro. Like I just want to
This
say, like this is just like one person's take. I'm never gonna say anything like it's the truth. You people out there can take it as
this is the crash course to
like
Pizza
BS or whatever, or if
Palace
you find out, you get what I'm saying? I'm just
online
sharing
class
ideas
right
at this
here.
point, right? So this is my personal process in terms of creating stuff. So let's say like maybe I didn't have such a good week. We were talking about, hey, it was like a little bit of a
Yeah.
tough week and stuff like that. I'm feeling maybe a little angry, right? But I'm like, hey, like if I just make an angry song, it's gonna sound very generic. You get what I'm
Right.
saying? There's so many shades of that. So let's go one level deeper. Am I angry because I felt let down? Am I angry because I felt humiliated from sort of experience? Am I angry because I felt bitter? Am I angry because I'm like just straight up mad, like angry
Right.
mad? Like so the thing is that we're taught, I feel like in society to shame ourselves for our own emotions. And we don't if we don't acknowledge it, we can't even talk about
Yeah.
it, right? So it's like sometimes I found, bro, like I don't even let myself feel these because I was told maybe as a kid I shouldn't feel this. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes like, hey, stop
Yeah.
crying, like blah blah blah.
And
It's
then
like, no,
and then it's
I'm
gonna bottle
frustrated,
up
bro.
and
Like
then blow up one
a
time.
hundred
And
percent,
then
a hundred percent, a
that's why we
hundred
have this
percent.
like
So that's
insane
why,
things
like,
going on everywhere. Like yeah.
100%. So we find one of these things to talk about, and we can even go one level deeper. If I feel let down, was I betrayed? Was I disrespected? Is that something like that's the like? If I want to go a deeper layer, and so all these feelings that we try to bottle up, my job is to say, hey, like let's talk
Right.
about it. And so, have you ever heard a song where you're going through something and it feels very like releasing? You're like, man, it felt so good to listen to that and that sort of thing. It's because we're trying to help
You're
our people, the people in
targeting
our
these
community,
emotions
communicate
though.
the meaning. A hundred
Yeah. It's
percent,
like
bro. So it's
Facebook
like
ads right
this
there.
is yeah, 100%, bro. And here's the other thing too. Like I could be just selfish as a
Yeah.
producer and be like, hey, this is my secret sauce. I'm keeping this to myself. Like I said before, my goal is not for the clout. My goal is not to just be like that one person. My goal is to actually normalize
Right.
this stuff. So us as a community of musicians, us as a community of creatives, we're thinking about these things when we put it out there because I think it's very healing if it's done in the right
I
way.
agree.
So feels wheel, I would
I
highly
agree
recommend.
this. I agree to
So
this. I used to be like before I went on this rabbit hole of like online world media and the alternative media, which is podcasting and all that stuff. I used to like work as a behavioral therapist. Like I work with individuals.
no
Yeah,
way.
so we would like work with kids on the spectrum, and things that we take for granted, like certain emotions, because for
100.
them it's difficult for them to process feelings. So for us, like we just take it for
100%.
granted, like yeah, just suck it up, don't cry or all that stuff. For them it's tough. That's
100%.
why they go on fits. They don't understand it. Like, why am I feeling this way? I want to tear myself apart, like engage in self-injurious behavior or hurt somebody else or like eat someone's food in some public area. So
100%.
work is very clinical, and you're actually handling individuals like who are probably like near something like neurotic or something. So it's kind of difficult at
Right.
times. So what you just showed me, that color wheel. So we have this something like a color temperature. It's very basic though. Like for like a individual who's on the spectrum who's like high functioning, and they have a hard time processing emotions, they would just point at a certain color. Let's say green was like I'm happy, and then orange is like I'm in the mood, and then red is like I'm angry. So just three basic emotions. If they
Yeah.
show to us, if they point like red, that would tell me like, oh, you're pissed right now, so I have to like back off. So I think
Yeah.
most of the time
I
people are
see.
misunderstood with their emotions, and we fail to recognize that as a society. And communication tools like that wheel you showed me, or like targeting that through songs or art to communicate like how well we receive emotion or how well we communicate our emotions are important. Like that's a you're on a behavioral level here, man. Like it's the
100%.
first time I've seen that. Or is that always been the case with music? always targeting emotions, like the formula to it. Let's hit these buttons, certain buttons in humans. Like let's target that. Let's target this. Let's target that.
Yeah, I think it was from making a lot of songs that were not well, okay, my original reason why I got into music was like I honestly think when I was growing up I was I think I was like a high risk kid that could be like self
Right.
harming, like that type of like profile, right? And I think there were like a few things in my life that kept me from going down that path more deeply, and one of those things was music, right? So for me, I realized that like music was such a life, like literally life-saving
Right.
thing. Like I was actually originally supposed to be a doctor, bro. Like I was gonna go into med school and
Get out
everything,
of
and
here.
like yeah, so like I was supposed to go down that route,
Were you enrolled
and then I
already,
was like,
or then
man,
you had to
this
like
me
pull back your decision?
so I had actually taken the MCATs and like
Right.
scored, and like I was like everything was on the journey. Like I actually scored like really decently on the on the thing. So like it was the neighborhood was actually like, whoa, like this guy scored this score in the
I couldn't
neighborhood,
believe
and
it,
blah.
huh?
It became like a thing, right? It became like and that's a whole different story. That's
Right.
another rabbit hole we can go down. But like um but then I think around that time I had the choice of doing that or music, because like around that time there were some record deals on the table and things like that, and it was tough. And what I told myself was that, hey, like we already have a lot of people who want to go into the medical field as nursing, doctors,
Right.
PAs, like all these things, right? So it's like we have in our community already normalized physical health. And what I realized was missing in our community was normalizing mental health. And I didn't know these terms at the time. Because I'd never heard these terms, but I just knew that that's what music had done for me. I understood the thing, but I didn't understand like there was things out there called therapy and all this
Yeah.
stuff, right? So for me, music was the closest thing because that's what was accessible. It's not like I had like the funds to like pay for therapy or even the network to know who to talk to, or
Yeah.
you get what I'm saying? The information. So music was the next best thing. So I was like, that's what I'm going to try to do with my music. Um, and that's the only way I can logically justify not becoming a doctor and stuff. And I can justify. You get what
Yeah.
I'm saying? Because it's kind of like, bro, like because the thing is like the worst thing that I remember when I first made the choice of not becoming a doctor and becoming a musician, or at least aspiring to be a musician, everyone was like, you're the like older people would come up to me and it's like they're like, oh, you think life is so easy, huh? You're like the dumbest, smartest person I
Yeah.
know. That's what they would say all the time. And they're like, you think it's such for such a selfish reason to do music. Like you could be
Right.
helping people. And I'm like, you don't know my story, bro. Like, but I didn't know how to say this stuff as a kid, right? I didn't know how to affirm myself. And these are older people kind of talking down on me, and I'm always respectful, bro. Like
Right.
if people like, I'm always going to listen to people's opinions, especially if they're older. Like I believe that it comes from like a place of
Yeah.
care. That's their way of showing me love, right?
And
but
wisdom.
but they didn't take time to hear my story, so that's why I was like, like you'll see. Like, but and I also understood that it wasn't normalized in my community, and I was a recipient of all the toxic
Right.
behaviors. So I knew that if I needed to develop something so the next generation we could have like the elders understand mental health a little bit better and all this stuff. So I think that's where it originally came from, bro. Like I actually never thought about it until you posed that
Oh,
question. So
really?
that's very interesting. Yeah, you actually made me realize
A
something
lot of
right now.
realizations
So
though, because actually it all boils down to like when it comes to mental health, all boils down to family and generational gaps in culture and society. And I think like
100.
our job, or for the folks who are self-aware, like our job to be the bigger human being in every scenario. It's tough because we have emotions
Yeah,
like I want to punch this person right now, like you know what I'm saying, but
a
you
hundred
gotta hold back
percent.
because
Yeah,
like
it happened in my
right,
neighborhood a few times.
right, like
So,
but we're human beings and we're rational and we can make we can reason, and that's why there's podcasts, that's why there's therapy, that's why there's like
fire,
psychiatrists, clinicians who can like, yeah,
a
talk some
hundred
sense
percent.
into us.
Yes, I'll say two things going off what you're saying. Number one is that we've normalized like going to the gym a little bit more. Like, hey, like take care of your health and run and all this
Right.
stuff, right? hey, we're physically taking care of ourselves. Hey, you know what's running behind everything? Our
It is.
mind. Our mind is
Right.
controlling our bodies and things like that. So the same, like if I broke my arm, if I had an experience in the past that was very traumatic and very toxic and my arm got broken, right? That's traumatic for my body, right? What's the next thing I'm going to do? I'm gonna try
Yeah.
to put it back in its sockets, get the bones back in place, get my cast, let it heal, like take it easy for a little bit, and so I can use my arm again. Because if not, I won't be able to use my arm,
Right.
right? It's gonna forever. You get what I'm saying? We have those same. We break our arms and our minds. The equivalent will break our arm through an experience. We had a tricky thing, and we don't take the time to process it if we just think that, oh, mental health is just a
Right.
silly thing. Guess what? We got a broken arm. When we could have two arms, we only have one arm in our mind
And
now.
it needs
And I say,
healing.
hey, bro, we 100%. So it's like, bro, you have this other arm. I keep saying, bro, I want to be inclusive. However you identify, if you're
Go
a
ahead.
woman,
You
they,
could
like
call me
everyone,
whatever
whoever
you
you
want.
are, whatever you are, everyone's
Right.
included, right? And it's like you could use two arms, and like if you're already accomplishing all these amazing things, or maybe you're struggling or whatever with just one arm, hey, like maybe nurse your second arm back to health, nurse your legs
Yeah.
back to health. Like a lot of us don't even realize we're traumatized until we really take time to like reflect and think about it, and we shouldn't feel ashamed for that.
No,
It's actually okay.
it is.
We just need a safe space to talk
It
about
is.
it.
And
Anyways, that's what I wanted to bring
what's
up, the
number
number
two?
one. And then number two, I want to touch on the point that you
Yeah.
said. You said
I hope I'm
earlier,
not in trouble though.
like,
I hope I'm not
huh?
in trouble because I say a lot of crazy stuff on the show.
Nah, bro. Like, bro, we need some crazy people in the world to shake
Yeah.
things up sometimes. So like, with the good energy. So like, it's like you mentioned, like sometimes with the kids, like they will yell, scream, and that
Yeah.
sort of thing, and then they're just trying to express themselves. And I feel like when a kid yells and screams, a lot of time in school or parents will be like, hey, stop yelling, be quiet, and stuff like that. And that's so
Yeah.
dangerous because the kid is going through something, frustration or something. And think about it, they're like 2 years old. They don't know the words, they don't know how to say it. They're just saying something's
Yeah.
wrong. And what's so interesting is like if the older person or whatever goes to the kids and say, hey, like they're crying, screaming, fighting, whatever, right? Hey, man, hey, what's going on? Hey, look at me, I see
Right.
you. Hey, tell me, it's okay to tell me what's going on. Like, let me know. Like, how are you doing? I'm checking in with you. Like, forget everything else. Like, how are you doing? And like, as a kid to receive that, it normalizes, hey, oh, I am being seen. Oh, I can talk about it instead of swinging
Yeah.
my arms. Like,
That's
huh.
such
You
that's
get what
such
I'm
a big
saying? So
deal.
it's like I grew up in a neighborhood where it was normalized. Everyone just throws their hands, and like, you get what I'm saying? It's because
That's such a big
like
deal.
everyone has hands. Everyone's trying to be the tough
Like
guy or girl or
you can
whatever, right?
recall like just growing up as a kid, like feeling something for the first time or feeling something you couldn't process. When an adult just or somebody older just comes up to you and like talks to you and just make just somebody there, like just a presence to like probably like ease the process. It makes you feel like I'm not alone in this
100,
world. Damn it, somebody on my team. Like
100,
that feeling like I'm not fucking alone. Like shit, you see this person gets it. She gets me. Like
100%.
and that's the same way I feel about some of these kids today, like artists. Like obviously now branching out from like working kids. I used to be a teacher too. Like I would really literally work with
Wire,
kids.
bro.
Like I used to be I used to teach elementary. So kids growing up,
Wire.
I could recognize like there's something definitely going on at home because it's coming out at school. So school is like
Yeah,
always like a
yeah.
place where they can paint their emotions. Like school's a canvas for them. Whatever they're feeling at home, they just
Mm,
paint away at school. And then when I branched out to behavioral therapy, I could see it in like the kids on the spectrum. And now like doing podcasts, like being involved in the scene, the art and the music and would say culture or something along those lines.
yeah,
I can sense a lot of
yeah.
angst and some the
Mm,
outcry of artists, like just this feeling of wanting to be heard, like wanting to be respected, because that art is something that's not practical in the Philippines, because like we come from this country. Where our main produce is manpower. Like we supply nurses, we supply engineers all over the world. We don't supply art, to be honest.
I have I have opinions on this
Oh, go.
actually. I
Okay,
have
just let me finish.
I'll
Let
go
me
after
finish for a
you.
sec.
Yes.
So I hear the outcries of these children. Like I and then that's where I get purpose. Like okay, knowing of 2 years doing this podcast and having like a DIY approach to like making your own content and finding organic reach where you don't have to spend like so much on Facebook ads or Instagram ads, like making your own content, putting out more songs, being in places. If I could just share this information with kids, if I could just give this platform to them, like hey, like you want to be heard, like at least to like a minority of the locality here, like hop on the show. So I would like really resonate with these kids, like especially these artists. Like there
Mm,
needs to be a space for them too, because they're human beings. Like what, the Beatles are fake? They were artists too. Like why do we worship them? Like what the hell, like,
100%.
right? So these are
Hundred
this kid who's crying right here, like wanting to be heard, could be the next one. Like just need to give him the chance. So that's why we
100.
need to keep providing these platforms to kids.
Bro, I love
Yeah,
that, man. Yo, that's amazing. I love the fact that you chose to give people a platform to be
right.
seen, to be heard. And you chose, like, it's so easy to center ourselves, and the fact that you also are like, hey, like I'm confident in like what I bring to the table already, and I want to center these people for a little bit so they can receive that energy for a little bit. That's powerful, bro.
Yeah,
And I love the fact that the other point that you said, like it's like, hey, these other artists from like different countries, amazing. They're amazing artists and that sort of thing. At the same time, bro, we have them right here in our community. They exist right here, and let's
yeah,
normalize this. Like, I think the biggest trick media sometimes does is saying, hey, there's this shiny thing
yeah.
over there. This is the
Grass
thing
is
everyone should pay
greener over
attention
there,
to.
I
We
mean,
forget all the shiny things that are right here in our
yeah,
neighborhood, bro. Like our people, like our country, like our culture. You get what I'm saying?
yeah,
It's like so special. And that's a colonial tactic that like it's like the whole thing of like, hey, make people think that what you have is not worth anything. Everything out here is
yeah,
worth everything. You get what I'm saying? We got to decolonize
yeah.
the mindset. Jose Rizal, bro, like you get what
Yeah,
I'm saying? He lives on that
for sure.
energy.
Like
So
like people,
for real.
we still live in that era. Like, well, you gotta have a safety net, of course, for sure. Well, you got for sure. Like, I'd be stupid not to, like acknowledge a safety net. I'm pretty sure everybody would benefit from a safety net, but you need to have a big house,
100%.
like a big family. You need to be driving not just just a sedan. You need to be driving like a bigger SUV. Like that's what feeding us over here, like consumers,
That's
bro.
I that's a very bro, I love that you touched on that because it's like that's the that's the trick that they get people with because it's like okay, this is something that I've noticed, like the difference, like going from the U.S. to other countries and things like that, right? Sometimes the way media can paint the U.S. is like, oh, everything in the U.S. is so
Right,
cool and like media and like powerful,
Hollywood.
like you know what I'm saying? Like that's like the paint, yeah, yeah, all that stuff. Now, here's the thing that they don't point out: it's all the negative effects of like. In some ways, capitalism is cool because it creates
Yeah,
opportunities in some ways, but at the same time, it isolates people because people begin to love objects more than
right.
people. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, like that person might take something from you or this person, and you guys are competing with each other, but it all serves the purpose whoever just owns the whole
Yeah,
system.
we're
You
just
get what I'm saying?
pawns.
So like it's kind of like 100%. Hey, you spend all your money on the
Right.
cars and then the
The
shiny
rat
stuff and things
race.
like that. Now it's like you have to keep working in this
Right.
system. You get what I'm saying? So they're actually teaching us to spend our money so that we can get stuck in these like golden
Right.
handcuffs. It's like the illusion of being free when they put you in another set
Yeah.
of handcuffs of the
And
economics of it, right?
you
So
can't imagine a
it's like
life.
that's where we
Yeah,
free our
and then
minds.
you can't imagine a life outside of it. Like, man, this is all I know. Like,
Yes.
this is the shit. Like I don't want
100%.
to go broke. I don't want to be a
I will also,
brokey.
yeah. And now here's, yes, 100%. And what I'll also acknowledge too is that, hey, like there is a practicality
Yeah,
of it. Like we also still need to have
for sure.
resources. We need to eat and all this stuff. Now it's the thing of like, hey, like when is enough enough? And like there's a saying in Sweden that it's a Swedish saying that I love. Um, and so here's the whole story. Uh, in Sweden, the Swedish would kind of run into Americans and stuff, and they'd be like, you Americans, like kind of in a
Right.
joking way, but kind of like, so after a while, I was kind of like, oh, I've noticed they would say that a few times to people from America. I was like, what do they mean by that? And they're like, yeah, like, Americans or like people who are so tied into economics, they always want more, 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 more. And it's like, that's not like, what's the point of that? It's like, they have a saying in Sweden. It's like nothing more, nothing less. Whatever, like if you have enough, that's perfect. Enough is perfect. Like that's essentially the saying. And I find it so beautiful because out in Sweden, like the I'm generalizing,
Right.
right? There's always exceptions and stuff. But there's more of a sense of like just living life. You get what I'm saying? Like it's like, hey, we're working, but it's just one aspect
Yeah.
of life. We're also living life, and I'm not living to show off. I'm just living to just be comfortable. And hey, I want to make sure my friends are comfortable and things like that. And it's like that's cool. So like for me, that was such a powerful thing. And like the way I tell people now is like, hey, like throughout the day, maybe in the day I could eat 3 sandwiches a day, right? That's maybe my body's intake. If I could eat four, but I might get fat, so I'll try to
Yeah.
just eat three, right? But let's say I've been blessed where I have 7 sandwiches today, right? So I eat my 3 sandwiches, I have four left over, and I look over to my left and my right, and then maybe they only ate 2 sandwiches.
Right.
They could eat one more, and then I say, no, 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 no. Hey, just look at how many sandwiches I have, guys. Like,
Right.
ha, like, man, I'm cool, right? Like, look at you. Get what I'm saying? That's the culture that they want people to uphold, right? And I make the arguments like, who normalized that? Like I understand the fear of not having food
Yeah.
tomorrow. Like I
It's
understand
scarcity
that.
mindset.
So I
That
understand why people say, yes, the scarcity mindset. But I know that if I have a skill set where I can make another sandwich tomorrow because I've put time into my skill set, I have unlimited
right.
sandwiches, bro. If I have four extra, I'm gonna give them. You get what I'm saying? Because I'm the source of resources because I create it because I've spent time to develop skill sets. You
Right.
get what I'm saying? So we have to change exactly what you said, the change from scarcity mindset to growth and
Abundance.
mindset of like, yeah, we have and again, that's the same trick. They say, hey, that thing is shiny and you have nothing. That's the whole
Yeah.
colonial trick, right? We all have the ability to produce. We all have the ability to grow. We all have the ability to create resources and things. So we all have unlimited potential, but we have to see that in ourselves
Right.
first for this type of ecosystem to work. So
Yeah.
that this is my underneath. I never thought I would
Right.
talk about this so overtly in an interview, but like this has always been my covert tricks and my creative stuff that I'm aiming to communicate through my visuals,
And the
music, all this
sound.
stuff. So it's going to be unfolding in the
Hopefully
next few
soon.
years.
And
So
I think we've talked off cam about this, about the music and the sound. So hopefully those energies get channeled through the music, right?
hundred
So yeah,
percent, hundred
wow.
percent.
Like we were supposed to talk about this a while ago, and I think this is probably the best segue to it. Let's talk about the music though. So you
All
you
right.
have some butter coming out this February 17th. Um, Collaborating with the likes of Cookies and who else is on this track? JWolf.
Oh, we got JWolf, the homie JWolf. Shout out to LA, San Diego, Southern
Right.
California. We got the amazing artist
Oh, he's
Heartbreaka
amazing.
with an A at the end. Amazing Laos artist who stays out in San Diego. Super talented. We got Foreign Logic. He's Atlanta and Denver. And like it's just a talented group of artists, produced by me and Vanilla together.
Oh,
You know what I
cool.
mean? And so we kind of like just want good vibes for the people.
I,
So
I'm
that's butter.
yeah.
Uh,
So butter. is a seasonal song. We talked about this off cam again. Like it's a seasonal song. What makes it so summer like?
You
You guys
know,
plan to
okay,
release it on
so
summer, or is it a spring song, or is it a summer song, or what?
we're actually releasing it now in winter
Oh,
because
okay.
like here's the thing,
It
right?
is
Like
still winter over there, right? I keep forgetting. Yeah,
it is still winter. So like it'll start hitting spring and then
right,
hit summer. But I'm releasing it now because I understand it's gonna take time for the song to warm up a
right,
little bit. Like I've spent a lot of time behind the scenes, but in terms of the Pizza Palace brand is completely
right,
new, right? So right now my job is to earn your trust. My job is to let you like here's the thing. It's like kind of like, hey, Pizza Palace, like people are kind of taking a risk. It's like they're taking a 3 minute risk to click on it and be like, is it a good song or a bad song? Like, did I just waste 3 minutes
right,
of my time? So I know it's going to be slower for me. I'm here to earn people's trust to let you know, hey, like every single time you see something Pizza Palace related, the quality is going to be at least this. So it's going to take longer for me to hit that summer run,
right.
right? Where people are actually listening to it in the summer. So I'm releasing it now, so as I release this track and a few others when summer hits, like I think, we have a few secret tracks with some big names on the
Okay.
way,
Is it
right?
safe to
So, I
is it
don't, I don't
safe
think
to
we can
drop
talk
some
about
name?
that yet,
Is it
right?
safe to drop it here though, or what?
Like, what do you think? Do you think I feel like it's more fun as a
Right.
surprise, right? Because they'll be like, hey, how's he working with these people? How's he working
Yeah.
with these people? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, I feel like that's a little bit more fun,
Okay.
right?
So
Okay,
so
okay, cool.
we'll just
Because
yeah.
it makes Yeah, because the next time I do an interview with you, then we can announce it
Okay. Cool.
here, and then it'll be
Right.
another.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
get what I'm
We can do
saying?
that.
So, okay, fire. So, but yeah, so I understand that it's a risk right now to try to listen to Pizza Palace because no one, no, outside of like the people who know, like for the people who don't know, I need to earn
Right.
your trust. So, I'm releasing it now, so it can gain some momentum for the summer.
I mean, you know what Gary V always says, like the bigger the aspiration, the slower you need to go. So slow's okay.
100%,
And we're not getting younger,
hundred
man.
percent.
Like we like slow.
Bro, there's this quote, right? They say if you're trying to chop down a tree, instead of just starting by chopping the tree, you should spend 3 days sharpening it and spend like 2 minutes cutting it down,
Right.
right? So it's like I'm not trying to sweat that much, I'm trying to make sure that like we do all the sweating, we do all the training for the boxing match behind the
Right.
scenes. So when we go out in the ring, like now it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So that's what we've been doing, bro. We've been putting in a few reps here and
For
there.
sure.
You
I
know,
mean,
so
I'm pretty sure like Pizza Palace has already garnered its like reputation along along the scene, along the lines of the scene. But for folks who actually like heard this for the first time, listening to this podcast, like I mean, there's like 8 billion, like 10 billion people now, population in the world. In case they manage to hop into I mean, drop into this podcast, listening, what's Pizza Palace and the record label, and can you take us through like the ups and downs, the struggles, just a brief backstory of Pizza Palace, though.
yeah, 100%. So I'm Pizza Palace. I'm a music producer that puts together great records, visuals, and just kind of stories for you to enjoy. And so, like, what Pizza Palace is, it's like a safe community, a safe space for you just to be yourself, bro. Like, um, also, when I say bro, like just saying this moving forward, that's including everyone. Bro is just slang for
Yeah,
everyone, right? It's not gender specific. We live in a non-binary world too, so everyone's included, right? So it's like we create a safe space for people just to be themselves, express themselves, in healthy ways. And like we that's what we're creating with Pizza Palace. And we want to make sure that we stories that are traditionally not able to be heard out in media because media is telling false stories about them to like oppressed communities and things like that. We're here to help tell your story. So it's like if you have a story that you want to be told, that needs to be told, that the world needs to hear to make it a healthier place. Like this is the place to tell those stories. And so that's my goal with Pizza Palace. And we're gonna do it through good music, good visuals, good taste, and good people. So that's Pizza Palace.
that's Pizza
So
Palace in a nutshell, friends. And sounds like a lot of content, though.
just
Like a lot of content.
it's a lot of content, bro. It's a lot of work. So it's like um So okay, this is a good segue to answering the second part of your question, like the story, like how it got here
Right.
and stuff. So um, you know, so I originally had done music out in Atlanta, and our stuff started going like super viral. The thing is that I was trying to tell the story about our community, and our community, we had like a lot of I think I touched on it lightly. We had a lot of crews with a lot of uh energy and a lot of aggression,
Yeah.
right? That's like throughout the
Rage.
neighborhoods and stuff, right? Yeah. And so the thing is that that's what the surface people say.
Right.
But underneath it all is like it's a community of people that came from broken homes, broken families. It's dangerous too, right? So people are looking for physical safety too. So it's like people would build these communities out of practicality to survive, to protect each other, to give to each other. And that's what I really wanted to highlight. Like I wanted to highlight that energy. I wanted to say, hey, like individually we can be great, but together we can be legendary.
That's
That's the original story I wanted to tell, right? But we have to strive for individual greatness first, but it doesn't stop there. Now we got to find other people to work together with, and that's really what I saw our crews as, right? And like now this term is circulating because I use it in another interview, street fraternities,
uh,
right? But that thing has been going like it's so funny. Everyone's like using that term now because it's like
is it a
street
safer
fraternities, right?
term now? Like, cause I understand like there are some words and some proper verbiage nowadays. Like, is the other word like offensive now? That's why you need to use the word street fraternity.
I just want to say that, like, people live certain lifestyles and it can be associated with
Right.
certain things in terms of what people present
Okay.
it as. And I don't want to get anyone in
Right.
trouble. You get what I'm saying? So it's like, as far as I'm concerned, like everything's
Okay.
imaginary. Everything, like, I don't know anything about. This is all what I think would happen in the
Yeah. Right.
movies, and everything's alleged. So that's what I have to say
Right.
about that. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying?
Same. Same.
So,
Same.
yeah, yeah. So, so it's just like it's like fraternities
Right.
might see in schools. They just happen to be on the streets. It's the same thing.
Having a
So,
good time.
uh, having a good time, absolutely. So, so to answer your question, but the original meaning of what I was creating about that community thing got twisted because when people started seeing the content we're putting out, they just saw like the tough guy persona, and
Right.
they just saw like, and then it kind of went left in terms of like, yeah, it's just the creative direction was off where it sent the wrong message out over
Right.
time. And that's when I took a break because I was like, man, like I realized I'm putting out the wrong,
Message.
like my
Right.
intention was good, but there was a mismatch between my intention and the actual outcome,
Right.
right? And what I realized is that I have some unresolved trauma that's still getting amplified into the
Right.
world. You get what
But
I'm
it was
saying? Because it's
necessary
like
though. You said so yourself.
it, it
You can't bottle up these
it
things.
was necessary. I just wish it wasn't. I just wish the impact through those actions wasn't so big because when anything goes through on media, it's
Right.
amplified, right? Like let's say me and you were having a private conversation and we're just talking or whatever, right? Then you're going to share some ideas with me. I'm going to share some ideas with you. I'm going to leave the table like a different person because I received
Right.
ideas from you, and now that's going to influence the way I maneuver through life because you gave me a lens. You let me
Right.
borrow your lens to now see the world in that way too, right? So I'm forever changed after that, right? So the thing is, the only impact we have is between us two and the people we
Right.
interact with afterwards, right? But now when we put something on a public platform, maybe 50 people see it. Let's not even think about 1,000 or 10,000 or a million, right? Let's talk about like if only 50 people see it. That's what is that? That's 25 times more than
Right.
two. So our impact's way bigger. And that's what I see creative. Creative is scalable communication, right? So it's a scalable way of sharing ideas. And what I wish was that I should have, if I was to travel back in time and tell myself, hey, this is your intention and your goal to communicate this. Hey, start. You don't have to go straight to the big thing all the time. Like work your material like a comedian does at the smaller clubs
Right.
first. Like
Yeah.
understand the impact of what it
Small
does and like all
audiences.
that stuff. Receive that feedback and like you get what I'm saying. Understand like the power of your. I didn't understand the power of our words and our impact. Like I'm just a kid, like just making music and like people just happen to like it. So I didn't expect it to have such a big wave. And honestly, that was shocking and to realize like, oh shit, like this actually really influences cultures and stuff. And that, oh man, I feel like, wait, maybe I'm not pushing it in like a way that's healthy for, because like certain neighborhoods, they got a little bit more like
Right.
aggressive, and like they thought that was the cool thing when, you know, hey, let's aggressively love each other. Aggression is not a bad thing, but like what kind of aggression?
Yeah.
You get what I'm saying? So that's when I was like, let me take a time out. And maybe that's where like a lot of the mental health stuff came into play, because I was like, I got some work to do. If I deserve to be on this platform, um, I need to earn it first, and I need to prove that to myself and to my community first. Get the cosigns from my community before I put myself out there, because I would never want to misrepresent something. And I'm gonna make more
Yeah.
mistakes, right?
Sure.
I'm human, right? I'm never
Yeah.
gonna perfectly, but at least I can do it more accurately, more consistently than
What a
before.
and
So
with in
that's
like
keep learning.
with a bigger sense of direction too, because now you had the experience. Because nobody teaches us these things, man. We all learn by the fly. Like you wish some things happened
100%,
differently.
especially in our
Yeah.
community, bro. 100%. Our like our leadership right now in our communities is focused so much on tangible assets, which is very important. I understand why we don't have this yet in our community, because our fundamental thing is like, it's what's the hierarchy of needs? What's it called?
Yeah.
Maslow's hierarchy of
The
needs or whatever.
physiological
Yeah.
stuff and self actualization
Yeah.
at the end.
Yeah. So it starts with food,
Yeah.
shelter, whatever,
Art
and
is,
all that
I don't
stuff.
know where you
So
place art in that pyramid. Probably the last part.
it's on the upper, but I'll say where it's also very practical.
Right.
We build resources for our community, right? And then after that, when we don't need to have like an excess of resources, but we have enough to
Right.
survive, right? That's step one, right? Once we realize we have resources, the next step is to work together to transform these resources into one thing, to like something else. So like if we mine coal, we work together to maybe make like a power plant, and then the power plant, we have to work with someone else to make like a power grid, and we have to work together, right? In order for us to work together, that's where kind of art and communication comes into play. Art, interpersonal communication, it's the same skill set. It's an emotion. There's an emotional wavelength underneath all of that. And the deeper there is, the more we can collaborate our resources together, you know? And the thing is that our communities, like, we're like coming out of wars or all these kind of different things where we're just a generation or two separated from certain experiences, right? So it's like our leaders from the generation before us is like, yo, they don't need to carry a care about art yet, because hey, we got to get the
Right.
resources first. Let's be
Yeah.
real. Our generation is like, we don't have
We have
all the resources we need, but we're
we
beginning to
have
have
those
some.
like aspects fulfilled. Like you said, like we're going to the gym. Like the physical part is needed. Like, but where's the mental part? It's still missing. So
Mhm.
um,
So some people
going
like
back to your point.
you're normalizing it. I'm like one voice who's trying to help contribute to that conversation, and like what I'm hoping is that more people begin talking about it, because the better we can begin to work together, by normalizing healthy communication, healthy listening, healthy like I see you, bro, like
Yeah.
normalizing that, you know. That's I think the next step. So in that sense, there's the practicality of the music. In
Right.
that sense, we can take it there. And this is what I love about South Korea. I'll kind of
Yeah.
share a little secret about South Korea.
Give South
Okay.
Korea their flowers.
Okay. South Korea and how they use creative work. uh, uh, hey, let's talk with these people. Maybe I made the point earlier, hey, the capitalism,
Right.
whatever, and they're like, hey, I don't buy that point. This point is for you guys, because this is how we can use creative works to help your capitalism. Okay, if that's the angle you want to use music as. Okay, so Korea, if you look at it, is sandwiched between a lot of superpowers. It's right next to China, very vulnerable
Right.
to like ground North Korea and all that stuff, right? But then US has a big interest in
Yeah.
Korea too, because they want to have like a presence next to China and things like that. So Korea is getting squeezed from like big global superpowers in terms of just like it could get squashed
Yeah.
out, to be honest, just like the landmass and all that stuff, you know. But why does it continue to have such a strong strength?
Mm,
Is because of they've survived thousands of years through diplomatic relationships with other
right.
countries. So they would have like relationships with China and countries around them and stuff like that because they put a lot of emphasis in that historically. So now what they do is with Korea, part of their economic growth is they understand that in order for us to compete at a global level, we have to trade with other
Right.
countries, right? But just like trading, there's a level of trust that has to be built. Because if I give 1,000 pounds of gold to someone across the ocean in return for some maybe like cinnamon or I don't know, I'm making things up, right? Like for cinnamon,
Cattle.
right? Well, cattle or something, I don't know, right? Whatever we're trading. What if the person is like not a stand-up person and like they just take the gold and they never give anything
Right.
back, right? So there's a relational building aspect with other countries. So or they're not even open to receiving gold from Korea because I don't trust these
Right.
guys, you know? But what if they saw a K-pop video? What if they saw K-drama and they're like, oh man, oh you guys are Korean? Oh cool. Oh you guys got gold. Hey, I'll work with
Right.
you guys. Do you see it's like it's a relationship building tool of helping share like some happy, fun moments from your culture to another
Using the
culture
creative,
to help build
the
that
art
bridge.
to communicate
A
on a
hundred
massive
percent.
scale,
This is
in a
bridge
massive
building.
scale, like breaking down
A
barriers.
100%. 100%. So just like how when I was a kid, music was a tool to kind of make friends with my
Yeah.
friends, or just like if I was like a new kid and like we would connect. Hey, who do you listen to? Oh man, I listen to Nas, bro. Oh shit, I listen to Nas
Yeah.
too. Oh
A
damn, that's
talking
hella
point.
cool. And
Yeah.
then like people get
Something
along,
in
right?
common.
100%.
Yeah. Because
Countries are doing that too. So that's why I make the recommendation. Like if you're a company or a country that's looking to trade, hey, export your creative works too. Because what people don't know is K-pop is heavily tied to the Korean government. So it's
oh,
hand in
is
hand.
that so
So yeah. So
interesting?
that's this trading of other goods too,
I never
and they
saw it that
monetize
way
that
though.
too.
But I do understand how creative is meant to communicate, and because you can only do so much
Yeah.
with one voice. So when you package creative into
100%.
visuals and video and visuals and audio and design, great designs, carefully planned great designs, packaged in a story that's so powerful that's gonna sweep people off their feet, and that's what a creative does, and the potential of a creative. Oh, I'm just so curious, like why
I
haven't
love it.
governments deployed creative though? Like used, like taken full advantage of the creative.
I think some countries have, like for example,
You just mentioned Korea, right?
if you look at certain, yeah, Korea. So if you look at certain Hollywood movies, a lot of them are being funded by countries in the Middle East,
Right.
right? So then they'll kind of start putting like agendas to kind of highlight tourism and stuff into their countries and be like, hey, look at how beautiful our country is. Come, or they'll kind of share their culture. So you can actually see like certain regional influences specifically in movies, right? Like mainland China is investing more and more into movies. And so we're kind of seeing that kind of begin to surface. We're seeing more like Chinese representation in like quote unquote like Hollywood movies, right? So that's kind of like it's there. I think that what's so special about Korea is that it was designed from the beginning. I mean, I feel like a lot of governments have that, you know what I mean? But then it's just kind of like, again, it's the order of priority of what
Right.
they want to do. Some countries, they have all the resources that they need, right? So they don't need to trade as much. They're just like, hey, our policy is to be self reliant and just use our own resources and
Right.
whatever, right? And then other countries are going to be like, hey, like part of our global strategy is to trade more and develop
Right.
relationships. And so I think those countries tend to put more into media and stuff. They definitely put it into
Oh, for
media,
sure.
right? And it's like that's their communication. So
Wow.
it's
It's a deep dive
Maybe
though.
the huge upside could be backed by the Filipino
I hope
government. You know what I mean?
so.
And then
Hey, like I've been doing this for
let's
two
go.
years. Like I have no expectations. Probably that's something that's been missing, and we haven't. Like I have to be honest. People have been asking me, like, "Hey, bro, like, you surely be earning big by now because you've been doing all this kind of stuff." Like, no, this thing hasn't even been positioned to earn. It's just positioned to provide value, like to to to
Can
platform
I?
people.
Yeah. There was an interesting interview I saw with Joe Rogan, and this ties into what you're saying. And when Joe Rogan and as we know now, like he got like a 40 mil, I think it was $40 million like
A hundred
Spotify
M,
deal or whatever. And okay, so a little
yeah,
bit more than 40. So it's more than double. All right. It's
yeah,
not bad. So he when he first did the podcast, it was just stuff that he enjoyed and stuff that he
yeah,
loved. And people would always be like, "Hey, like why are you doing that, man? Like you have so many other things and blah blah blah. Like why are you doing?" He's like, I just want to like hear stories and
right,
stuff. I just want to like create platforms and stuff. And like for years, it just didn't really do
yeah,
anything. But the thing is that the genuineness
yeah,
shines through, and over time, and the consistency shines through. It's like that homie. It's like the weekend comes and you're like, man, what should I do this weekend? And then the homie hits you up and you're like, bro, he's been here for every single weekend. Whether I have time or I don't have time, he makes time to
yeah,
reach out. Damn, like he's cool as hell. And then that's where the depth
yeah,
builds. So I almost see that as and again, that's why, like I said, the same thing with the Pizza Palace
right.
stuff. It's like honestly at this point, like yeah, there's like some like campaigns and stuff behind it. And the thing is that like I know it's gonna run like a decent amount of numbers, but like if it even if it doesn't, bro, I'm happy. Like
Fulfill.
I still put stuff
Yeah,
out.
I
Yeah, a
got to
hundred
do
percent. And
this.
so it's like, and I know where. Go
I mean,
ahead.
I got to do this. Like, hell, I don't even know anybody else doing this. Like, I mean, I'm in my own bubble, but I get to do this. All right,
Let's go.
shit that
Yeah,
makes you happy.
100%. Number one, and that's priceless. And then everything else is just the extra, and the consistency over time adds up. You know what I
It
mean? And we
compounds,
keep, and it gives us the feedback that we
right?
need. Yeah, too.
Well,
So
I guess it
yeah,
works.
I don't know,
I guess
man.
it works for Joe because he's such a, like. I mean, he's been in the media industry for so long, like Fear Factor, and um, he's a good comedian, a commentator, a UFC commentator. I mean, you would see his face everywhere. Like he's a celebrity in his own right outside of podcasting.
Hmm.
Well, in the podcast, he's a fucking beast. Well, he's probably the goat. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah,
in my
it's fine.
case, and some of these folks who are like up and coming folks who want to have their own podcast because this is also a community. Stuff like what I appreciate about what Joe does is he gives back to the other podcasts, like go on their shows, like and be a guest on other shows, like help promote other podcasts, like have guests on that have podcasts, like so. As for me, like I'm no celebrity. Like I come from nowhere. Hell, like I'm like a 9 to 5 guy. I'm not even from the creative space. Like can't do music. I have no music in me. But I love music, but I have no creative music in me. But what I do know is that there's a community to be cultivated, and that's where I fall along those lines. I'm not a celebrity, which is a lot of celebrities jumping in on podcasts too, or I'm not Bugoy na Koi Koi who does like 3 other podcasts with his homies. Like I'm not famous like them, but like you do what you can in your locality with whatever's given. And I'll let you in on something, man. I saw your podcast, like this right here, like dude, this must cost a lot. That
Oh, the pure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know the production cost that goes along that. Well, you know what's so fulfilling about what I do, and I keep preaching this, and I think I'm gonna do this forever. I basically started with zero. Like I haven't spent a single dime on this. I've been doing this for 2 years now, and we started off using a
Fire.
mobile phone with no cameras. Yeah,
Fire.
and we just hit it off from there. I've been doing this for 2 years. Just DIY'd myself to everything. Partnered partner up with I built a podcast community with you know a podcast community with other podcasts like like trying to preach and be positive and all that stuff. So just they won't stop, and I kind of noticed like I understand why artists stop as well because there is no support. So the backbone of a huge upside is like so you just won't fall off. That you just keep standing. Like whatever we can do. It's not that like the artists need us. Like fuck, the artists can do well by themselves. Like they don't fucking need me. Like to be honest. But the fact that like, hey, that guy's still there, still cheering us on. Like sounds a little bit creepy and weird. Like that guy is still around,
Not
still
creepy, bro.
supporting us. But you need somebody like that. So you see you need somebody on your
Hundred
corner. So
percent.
I kind of saw that need to be filled in my locality because there's this outcry. Yeah, there's a supply of artists, but there's no supply of somebody or a platform that keeps them going. So yeah,
Infrastructure and an outlet for
that's
this.
where I think we fall under in. And we started out, we didn't really start out with music and art and all that stuff. We used to be like, I used to do this podcast with another dude. I love him to death. He's so busy. I'm not sure if he can still make time for this. But we used to do this for like health and fitness stuff, like CrossFit stuff. Like
Fire.
yeah, like all our influences boils down into a podcast. And it just so happens we love music so much, and then it now predominantly became a podcast about supporting minorities and supporting people who don't have a platform. Like, so I guess the local influencers won't feature you. Hell, I'll take you. Something like that. Like, we'll take you.
Mm.
I mean, and we can. This can be. And the thing with this is, we can keep it very authentic. I know, like you spend to be on somebody's page, like an influencer's page, like influencer marketing, give and take. But on our platform, we get to be authentic and genuine because this is this is something like a friendship. Like I fuck with you, like who else who wants to sit down and understand what you're going through. So it's not just like basically music. It's the locals, like the community, and now the
Fire.
artists.
I love that, bro. I love how you're so community minded, bro, and like the fact that you really I don't know. We all have like our time and our energy and like what we choose to invest it into, right? And the fact that you choose to put it out into the community to give that energy to people who
Yeah.
need that. Bro, you're that guy with like 15 sandwiches and you choose to give that to
Ah, wow.
like,
Oh,
to the
I wish
people
I
that
had
need
more
it,
though. Like 100 sandwiches.
Bro, I feel the same way, but we try what we
Yeah.
can, right? And then that gives us motivation. If my capability is like maybe my capability is to build only 10
Yeah.
sandwiches, right? I'm gonna work so the next year I have 12, and then I'm gonna work so the next year I have 14, and the next year I'm gonna try to build a sandwich factory. You get
Oh
what I'm saying? Like we just gotta
no,
be like a little like there's a timeline.
you gotta start your own pizza franchise.
Oh, I got a few plans, but I can't
Okay,
really
let's not
talk
drop.
about
No,
that on here.
no.
It's a great
Yeah.
idea, though. You heard it first
Uh,
here.
Franchise where everything happens. Like where the artists hang out, where their podcasts been recording podcast episodes at. Yeah.
We got something in development.
Oh, okay, cool.
So
So, all right,
that's all I can say.
let's not spoil it.
So,
Hey, I, I mean, I hope you're having a
future
good
works.
time, man. This it's always
Absolutely,
what I
man.
appreciate about podcasts. Like, you can absolutely be comfortable with a total stranger. Like honestly, and I have to be honest, like there
Yes.
was no interaction between us before this, but just spending like 2 hours already with you off cam and on recording this episode, like gives you so much perspective and context of how humans should be. And I'm reminded, bro, like I I'm very tactless in the way I speak. Like I lose a lot of friends. I'm not really friends, but friends have really criticized the way I communicate. And this is like a big challenge for me to have to talk to somebody across the other side of the world who has you guys have a completely different culture where you have to be thoughtful in your with your words. I am not thoughtful. I'm so spontaneous. Like I just I probably say like very like offensive words here and there, but this is like practice for me, like having to do this. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean, and like, I mean, like, I would also say that there's a lot of areas in my life where I feel like I'm still learning how to verbalize better, communicate better, and I feel like as long as we give ourselves the patience to learn and the kindness and space to learn, that's going to give us the ability to get there. It's like I say the same thing for anyone who's working on music. It's like 90% of the time when we're working on music, it doesn't sound good, bro.
Right.
Like what people hear, like it's like oh, I got to figure out this chord progression. Ah, this isn't it. Oh, I got to figure out this rhythm. Ah, it just doesn't matter. Then if I keep telling myself, bro, you suck, you
Uh,
suck, you suck, I'm not going to have the ability to finish the song because at the end I'm going to be
right.
depressed. Do you get what I'm saying? And then the next time I don't want to make a song because I'm like, man, I was depressed last time I made this song. I don't
Yeah.
like the feeling I give myself when I make this song. So I never go through the journey completely. But if I'm working on the music and I'm like, hey, man, it doesn't sound that good, but at least I learned this. Oh, it doesn't sound, oh, shoot. Oh, okay, this doesn't fit, but this does. And I'm just having fun with it, giggling. Like it doesn't have to be
Right.
serious, right? Then by the end, like 2 hours passes, I had a lot of fun and I have a cool song. You get
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And it's the same thing about our communication or any goal that we
Right.
have, right? The journey is the process, or the process is the
Yeah.
goal, right? So it's like I always like I talk with some MMA fighters and I'm like, bro, how do you get so good at MMA and stuff, right? And like, what's your thing? And they're like, hey, bro, like I don't really think about the championships or whatever, right? That stuff is just gonna come. I care about the technique on how I
Right.
kick the bag,
The
loving the
process.
process, loving the timing, loving this, everything else, So it's like, hey, like I'm I'm gonna 90% of the time not be good, but let me be kind to myself,
Yeah.
and and then we get there,
Yeah.
and like
So that self
it's
talk,
so
we that self talk. I have to
yeah,
just keep
yeah,
reminding
yeah. So
yourself.
also thank you for sharing that. I think it's very cool to hear your journey in that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because this is almost like a moment in time where we document this,
Yeah.
and then like like a few months down, and you'll be like, man, like I remember we
Yeah.
talked
In
about this, and
case
like
in case
man, all
this
the
blows up, and like we get to clip that. There you go. I'm
all
about that game. Like I
right,
want to be historically correct, and if I'm wrong, then I live by my and I then I live and die by my own sword. But my game is like this. Since I don't have like the production, the the manpower. This is so DIY. This is a one man wrecking crew. My whole game is about repurposing stuff. So this podcast, this long form content, I can repurpose this in so many ways. Like I, I just
100%.
salivate by the fact that once this done, then my creative juices flows. Like I'm just gonna listen to that podcast episode, then think about like how this can go on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, and Facebook Reels, and on
Yeah.
IG. Or I'm just excited about those things. Like man, this is so much fun.
What got you? Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
sure. Go
I'm
for it.
sorry. I
Yeah.
interrupted. What got you interested in like the editing like what got you that initial spark where you're like, hey, like the stories through like these podcasts and things like that? Is there like a certain moment where you're like, oh, I want to put time into it? I want to put time into this, like that original spark.
You know what? It's moments like these I've been preparing for all my life because nobody asks me the questions, and I just basically converse with guests. But these questions can either make or break me. But what got me into this, like somewhere around 2015 or 2016, I used to work overseas in the Middle East, and there's not so much to do as a overseas worker. I just go clock in and clock out, and then all my all you're left with is a mobile device. And I kind of had like a bit of passion with Wong Kar Wai films back then, and Chinese aesthetic, like Hong Kong aesthetic, the way that feels,
Ah,
the street vibe, and then a lot of anime dystopian kind of stuff like Akira. I don't know if you've seen Akira, or some
yeah, yeah,
Studio
big fan.
Ghibli and all those animes, and
Yes.
sparked some creativity in me. And I had a phone, and I had like this like free editing tool where I also, and plus I miss my wife back then, my girlfriend. Like, I have this footage of us. I just keep editing, and don't know this like content boom in social media. Like, everybody just curated and made vlogs out of travel vlogs. So, like, I'm not
Yeah.
technically sound with editing, and I just had a phone, and I just started chipping away with whatever I had footage, and the process was exciting. Like, I spent hours, and even like into the wee hours in the morning, just cutting, editing, and even experimenting stop motion using a phone. Stop motion stuff. Like,
Oh wow.
it was wild. Like, I got hooked into that stuff, and then I kind of felt like I was at the wrong time. I wish I did all those things. I mean, I wish these reels right now happened back then, so I could had a better. I think I was too early for it, and plus I work a 9 to 5 job, so all this art stuff and editing and through video is like kind of pointless. I just use it, just to communicate like passion for my then girlfriend, or for stuff I did in the UAE. And then it died
Yeah.
because I was working, and then 2020 came, and it's a 2020 passion, and then the podcast came about, and started out as like just to cope with mentally stuff. Listen to a lot, but I wasn't laid out. I mean, laid out. How did I say it right? Laid off from work, but I resigned from work because it wasn't good anymore. So I resigned, and there was like
Mhm.
pay was hard to come by. I had to like do a lot of freelance stuff, working odd jobs and all that.
Yeah.
And then I just started to listen to podcasts, and then, this thing is cool. And I kind of always thought like, hey, bro, like, from where I'm at, and I I may be like talking, so being so proud of myself, but being able to communicate like this is probably a rare commodity, because I am we me
100%.
and Cookies speak the same dialect. We're from the dirty South, Mindanao,
Let's
Visaya. Let's
go.
go.
Let them know, bro. Let it be known,
Yeah.
bro.
So to be able to speak at this space is, honestly, I think it's a gift. And if I don't make use of that, like, I just let it go to waste. Plus, I'm doing it anyway. Like, I'm communicating the use of the American English to clients all over UAE. Like,
Yeah.
why not I do my own shit and do it in a podcast?
100%.
Plus, I love these other things, so
100%.
it's funnel it to a podcast, and then the rabbit hole of huge upside. Now we've let, I'm here talking to you.
Let's go. Wow, that's an amazing story,
Yeah,
bro. Thank you so much for sharing that story because it's very special.
thanks.
Like, and it's so cool to see trace the history of it and the evolution. One thing that kind of sticks out to me is that you mentioned the stop motion and the editing in the beginning, and when you were talking about that, I felt like I could feel a lot of joy as you
Yeah,
were
for sure.
talking
I
about
enjoy that stuff.
that kind of time
It's
period.
people find
So
that painful, like editing stop motion shit. I love that stuff. You know.
So question: if you had the time now, would you find joy in it
Oh,
still?
for sure, 100%. Um, I'm gonna edit videos the rest of my life anyway because I'm just gonna produce content.
Yeah, that's special, man. I think that that's super cool. And like I think that I don't know, putting it out there, and I say this as like a producer myself, is sometimes like with the content things, some of the most special things is what brings joy into
Yeah,
our lives when we just share it, you know? And what if there was a huge upside intro or outro that was stop motion, bro? That was made. Like it may take like a little bit of time to make, but you just kind of chip away at it
bit
a little
bit by
bit,
bit.
you
Yeah,
know,
the
and
long game.
like and it's so authentic to you, bro, like cuz that's your
Yeah,
story, you know? Like again, we're talking about the rarity of like
yeah.
uniqueness, right? And because it comes from your story, there's a realness underneath it that I think could translate.
And that's
So
what I try
I don't
to
know.
communicate to like these artists, local artists here, in the locality of my city. Like, I hope I don't sound preachy in the way I communicate as well, but I'm pretty sure they get it because I know words can only do so much, but actions and content and creative will do it at scale. And they see, they appreciate. I'm gonna claim it. I think they appreciate it because I don't think they'll be hitting me up every time and anytime they want to. Like, hey, can you show up? Can you pull up? Hey, can you? I mean, yeah, for sure. Like, it's what I like to do. I mean, let's go.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
content making of it, because I think now to be an artist is you have to be like well rounded as a creative. I know a local artist here. She's probably the complete package. She does film, she sings, she dances, and I mean, what more can you need from an artist? Like the whole package. Like
Yeah.
Russ did it. He's a prolific content creator. He's on TikTok. Like you had your run-ins with Russ, right? You
Yeah.
know his backstory.
Russ,
Yeah,
Russ. Oh, I've
yeah,
worked with
yeah.
him. Yeah,
But
yeah.
he
Uh-huh.
blew
Yeah.
up in social media, right?
Yeah, 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 for sure. He's from the he's not exactly from my neighborhood, but he's like over, so we had the same booking agent and everything, like when I
Yeah.
was in Atlanta.
I
Yeah.
mean,
So
if I could communicate to the local scene here what Russ was able to accomplish, you know what I mean? Like, is it's just easy. Like,
yeah.
do your thing. You're talented, yes, but also do this other side, which is I think important for your portfolio as an artist. If you can't do it,
Mm-hmm.
then let somebody else do it for you. In that sense, like, if you don't
Mm-hmm.
have the budget to do it, pull up a friend, a cousin, or like make this an agreement between you and him. Like, yeah, if you blow up, let's split it 50-50 or 20-80, like however. But just
Yeah.
make sure you have a consistent presence, especially with the content, because I kind of noticed this, and please don't be offended. I know like you've been in this industry long enough, and sometimes what holds us back is like we want things to be perfect, you know, and then what holds us back is like we're not ready. We want things to be perfect. We want things to be where in fact you can actually just start now. You know, like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
that's what I want to communicate to these
Yeah.
kids, like the local scene, like, in a not
Yeah.
so preachy way though.
I think yeah, I resonate with that because there's so many kids who are just kind of working on music and they feel like they lack the resources and they lack things. I mean, here's the thing, right? Like Nick, I forget which song it was, but one of the first songs that Nick recorded as a hit, it was, you know, a lot of people say, man, I don't have the right microphone or whatever. It was recorded on a gaming
Oh
headset, bro.
my god,
Like he didn't have a
exactly.
microphone. You get what I'm saying? He just, you know, and just rapping. I think it was like edited on Cool Edit
Right.
or something. Like you get what I'm saying? Not even like one of like the like official like DAWs or you get what I'm saying? So like make use of the resources out there and like the skill set is what is going to just go
Yeah,
out there and like believe in yourself first because it's like why should another person believe in you if you don't even believe in yourself
100.
first, you know what I mean? So it's almost like trust the process, I'll share my process. I'm not
Go
saying
for
like
it.
I know it all, but like okay. So my whole thing is when I first made music, it was not that good, bro. Like I would kind of create stuff and then I would share it with people and then they'd be like, oh, that's cool, bro. Like that's the kind of response, you know? So that's when I was like, oh, okay, cool, cool, you know? And then just kind of keep working. And then eventually it was just kind of like, oh, like, oh, this is decent, bro. Like, oh, this is cool. You know, like that the tone changed a little bit. It's like, oh, okay, cool. But I'm not getting the response I want, like, oh my gosh,
Right.
you know, like that sort of thing, right? So then I'm like, okay, cool. Let me kind of figure out what's missing and whatever, right? The next round, I kind of share stuff and like they're like, whoa, hey, you made this? And I
Right.
was like, oh yeah, yeah, like oh yeah, I made it. I was like, oh, that's good, you know, but it's not like the you know, like that kind of emotion yet,
But it
right?
was close.
And then
Yeah.
close. Then I'm like, oh, I see the progress. It's like, you know, it's like if you're in the gym, you evaluate in the mirror or you kind of
Yeah.
weigh yourself and like how much you're lifting, all this stuff, right? I'm like, I'm pushing a little bit more reps now, right? So I'm like, but I'm trying to be like elite tier. That's my goal. So then afterwards I start playing beats and they'd be like, bro, when are you releasing this? Like when is this coming?
Right.
You know, that's like one or two of those and then five or 10 and things like that. So like for me, like that honest feedback is very important. And then once I hit that, then I know I'm bringing something valuable to the table. You know, it's like I know I'm bringing something that resonates and is honest because my mistake as a music artist early on is I would try to strong arm people into liking
Right.
my music. Like I would puff my chest out and be like, "Hey, these are all the things that I've
I
done and
made
things like
this.
that." And then of course they're gonna have to say, "Oh, I like it, bro." Like you know, because it's like I'm kind of like throwing all the accolades as much as
Yeah.
possible, but that's not a true. I'm not getting an
Right.
honest response, and that's hurting my growth as a creative person. You know, versus I have to earn people's permission to like it. I could never force anyone to genuinely like something. I just have to put it out there and just like it has to really resonate and I have to receive it. Like I have to earn it,
Right.
you know? But I have to do that without any accolades, you know? So in my creative spaces, I just share stuff. um, I also think about people's whose audience that I want to
Right.
reach out to, right? So I'm also because everyone's taste is different, and then so then from there, once I hit that, I was like, oh, okay, this adds value, and I just put it out there, and then maybe I don't need a marketing, I don't have a marketing team, I don't have distribution, I don't have whatever, right? But it's out there, and people are now associating me with being a musician
Right.
that is at a decent level. Guess what's going to happen? People are going to gravitate towards that. People are gonna start being like, "Oh, hey, you're that guy who, oh, I like it, man. Hey, if you ever do a song, hey, hit me up, bro." You know, like those kind of things start happening. It's a process, you know. And then over time, hey, bro, you need marketing. I got the homie who does this. He's been looking for a
Oh, cool.
talented guy like you. Oh, bro, you need a stylist? Man, I saw what you did with the choreography over here. That was really dope. I know it only got like 10 views, but bro, he thinks your stuff
Right.
is dope. Let's do something, you know? And so it's like constantly just sharing. Like who cares
Right.
about the big crowds and stuff? Like we like that comes like, but like if that's your goal, just to be in front of like 50,000 people, bro, just come hang out with me, we'll go on there, we'll stand in
Yeah.
front of there. But like that's not
Right.
sustainable. Like create something good, right? Like um the the crowds will come. And I say this also for anyone who's performing, make individual connections with people. Look at people in the eye, be like, "Hey, how y'all doing? Y'all doing good over here?" Let them know the crowd is
Yeah.
included. Let them know that yeah, I'm a performer on stage, but y'all are creating the energy together. Hey, we're making this come together. Hey, left side, how y'all doing? The right side, how y'all doing? In the middle, how y'all doing too? Bro, make some noise. We got to make this place sound good for everyone. You get what I'm saying? It's a collective effort. You get what I'm saying? So it's like you have to practice this with 4 or 5 people around you before you do this with the thing. Practice that energy, you know? If you can do that genuinely with 1 or 2 people, that's the most
Right.
important. Our goal is to connect with one person, you know? So going off what you're saying, it's like all these artists have these tools
True.
already. Just sharpen your sword, you know?
And
So we have
and
this.
find a buddy, right? Like somebody who's like gonna like, be in a bubble with someone. Like I mean, at the same time, be accountable for probably some things that we might think that you're weak at, but be in a bubble with someone who's aspiring is the same. Like, you know, I want to be the best. Like, you know,
Yeah.
just hang
Yeah.
out with Nick Makino or like hit up with Nick Makino every time or cookies. And you know what this bake shop thing is doing, and got a lot of talented artists like just waiting to blow up. You know,
Yeah, yeah. I think with that feedback, that part that you said is super key. And sometimes that takes a little bit of
right?
time. Sometimes that feedback group is online, sometimes that group is around you, and it's going to take some time to search and find that. Sometimes it takes a little bit of time. I mean, I had to go through that process too, right? Like there's going to be a long period of time where it's going to feel lonely.
It is
And
lonely.
in
I
those
most of the
times,
time it's lonely, right? Finally
yeah,
somebody said it.
yeah,
It is a lonely space.
yeah,
I mean, I think for
yeah,
anyone just trying to make it, like it's a one player game, I guess. Like, people.
yeah. I have a question. So, like, when you work on like your stuff, there's gonna be times when you feel like, hey, it's me plugging in and I'm figuring it out, and there's gonna be moments where we don't get the response that we're looking for, but like we still need to kind of keep pushing.
All the time.
What do you plug into mentally to keep pushing
I
for
mean,
you?
all I get that all the time because like as much as we want to be doing this forever and like it makes you happy, but at the same time, you have to be like self aware, like shit, what am I saying? Or like, is this even resonating with the people? Like, who the fuck's listening to me? I don't even know these people. Or like, are they exactly having a good time? Like, yeah, you kind of want to step back and like, shit, like, how do I get better at this? So, I mean, like, one, I always need that accountability partner. Like, I can't get high on my own supply always. Like you praising me earlier, I appreciate that. I
Mm,
get flattered. I mean, people coming to the show, they want to thank me. Of course, man, I want to have you on, but I always kind of want to have that someone who like shits on me. I need that, that the yin to my yang,
no, yeah,
that kind of paradox, just to remind me like you ain't good, so you got to do more, like
mm.
and
You like having that energy to.
yeah, I think it's important because it's practical that way, so I don't get caught up with whatever comes in this journey. So I mean, it also reminds
You don't
me
want to
that
get lost.
there's family too, like that dynamic, which is like probably like the priority, and the rest of these things, like where I'm doing creatively, it's not like I'm Elon Musk or Kanye West, who's like trying to push for something that's bigger. But I wish what I'm doing is bigger, but but again, I always keep reminding myself, and plus I listen to a lot of podcasts, just to give me that energy, that refocus, that
Mm,
restart. I listen to a lot of podcasts. I'm a like big podhead, and I'm always on the move. Like wherever I go, like I kind of feel down. I'm let down by the last thing I did. So why I get some inspiration. Like I want to listen to my favorite thought leaders. Yeah, I probably could say this next time, or oh yeah, like he made some sense. So you know, podcast has been my escapism. To like refresh and like
oh,
get back, hop back on that creative process again. Like, yeah, I can do this.
bro, that's fire. Because when I'm hearing you talk about the podcast and stuff, it reminds me of how I feel with my relationship with music in a lot of ways. Like how I recenter myself and like, that's
Right?
cool, bro. Like, um, you also kind of reminded me of something in terms of like you mentioned like, hey, getting the feedback and things like that and positioning. Are you familiar with the term like
Yeah,
ikigai by any chance?
yeah. That's a
Yeah. So
struggle for
like,
me though.
uh huh.
It's really a struggle
Ah.
for me because there's like again like most of what I do is hasn't been positioned yet to like generate like income or money. So most of what I do is just like providing the value, providing the avenue for people. So again, I got the purpose down, like makes me happy, and then one is providing like other people platforms, so that makes them happy.
Actually, for anyone listening who doesn't know what ikigai is, maybe could you break it down?
Oh, like I
Just
don't
so
even know
like
what this is. Like Ikigai, just I just remember though that it has four
for
aspects.
anyone who's
Well,
watching,
thank God for Google. I have it
here we
here.
go. I don't know.
So,
Oh, you have it?
so
Okay, you pulled
Ikigai
it
is
up.
your life's purpose, though. So,
Man, this is too
it's a
cool.
Japanese concept that means your reason for being. Iki in Japanese means life, and Gai describes value or worth. And it just has four parts. Like there's four parts of it: what you're good at, what you love, and what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. So that's Ikigai.
It's like a Venn
Yeah.
diagram almost. Yeah,
Yeah, so
and
I
like
kind of feel like every time I refer to that, there's always a void in it for me because it's not positioned to the what I do. The platform is not positioned to generate, but I think it doesn't always come in the form of like monetary value because I'm a strong firm believer of there's so many types of currencies in this world, and money is just a
mm,
construct of value, right? Like they just made it to invent it. Exactly, it's just like a trust thing, kind of thing. Like I trust that this
yeah,
dollar means something to you,
will retain
right?
value.
I mean, but I think like people back then, before they used money, they traded value, right? And I think what happened back then, people traded each other's time with their word. And I kind of feel the sense that what's generating with the platform right now is the people who are coming in. So there's an ROI because now I have Pizza Palace in the episode. It's a ROI because you said there was like you heard about good stuff about this platform, and not just that, like the folks who like wanted to be on here, and I honestly feel guilty that I can't accommodate everyone. Like I wish it was a bigger media company so that like we have other shows here that like yeah accommodate that guy, so we can scale.
Yeah,
But yeah, I
yeah,
just wish we could accommodate everyone. But that's the ikigai for me. I guess it does have the ikigai, right? Ikigai now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
What you
yeah.
what
You're like
why were
honing
you
in
reminded of that? Like what came to mind?
because you were just kind of mentioning, hey, like I'm refining the process, and it just felt like the whole process of going from the edge of the Venn diagram into the
Right.
center. So you're kind of like, hey, I have this already, but I don't have this circle yet, and I'm gonna like add
Right.
that in, and like it just felt very much like that process. So that's why I was like, I feel like you might be, and then you are
Have
the
you read the
ikigai,
book though?
So
Have you read the book? Yeah.
I haven't read the book. So literally all I do is like I every single day I wake up and this is on my
Oh,
phone,
cool.
right? And I ask myself, where am I? Like where am I on this
Right.
circle today with this project? Does it hit every single thing? And if it's missing it, I figure out, hey, what do I need to add
Right.
into it? Or what do I need to do? Or what skill set do I not have that so I need to get
Yeah.
there,
Right.
And that's
You're
that's
into
the
this like color wheels and design stuff, like more visual. Like, do you need those visual reminders every day? Like,
I'm a big believer in um communicating things through visuals
right.
and stuff. So I like to see how people will organize
Right.
things, right? And then once I find that it adds value to my life, I'll surround myself with it. Because
Right.
I'm a big believer in that we receive the energy of the things
Right.
around us, right? So the thing is like, when I was younger, it was just like there was a lot of BS around me, bro. There was just like so much like craziness happening. So I had to fight just to have a space to create
Right.
music, right? So like if this is zero, I'm always at negative 14 and I have to fight every day
Climb
just to get to
climb out of it.
zero to just get to like something. You
Yeah.
get what I'm saying? And then so by that time I'm
Right.
exhausted, right? So I want to be in a space where I step in and if I'm at zero, the energy the room gives me puts me at level like 7, and then after that then I can try to start from level 7 to get to level 14. So that's why I have all these things around me. Like people always talk about how Instagram can be very tiring and toxic. Like literally I anything I don't want to see, like I just kind of
Yeah.
pause, and it's just only like motivational
And
stuff,
you have that,
information,
and we have that
ideas.
option, right? Like, you can always curate the environment you want. Like, if you don't want any of this negative stuff, like you can always choose to have an algorithm that speaks to your liking. You know.
A
Yeah.
100%. We are we're the energy that we receive. It's gonna eventually kind of come out in a certain way. You know what I mean? So it's like we curate. If my job is to honor the promises I was making earlier in the podcast. I shared my goals in terms of what I want to communicate out and stuff. Right? That's my promise. So if I want to make good on that promise, I need to make sure that I'm feeding myself the right food,
Right.
energy, right? The right energy to put that out there, because like we're energy machines. We
Yeah.
transform it. You put gas into a car and it
Right.
turns into the wheels. You put
Yeah. Little
ideas
do we know that
into music.
we're just pockets of energy here and there, like like
100%, bro. A hundred
a
percent.
bigger like symbiotic being of energy working together, like passing energy back and forth through
Yeah,
communication, non-verbal or verbal, through visual or audio, enough
yeah,
to probably
yeah,
like light up the entire solar system. I guess there are like 7 billion human beings in this world. Like, imagine that,
bro. You ever think, man? There's like so many people in the world. Sometimes it's like it's super
right?
trippy just to think like, yeah. Like, have you ever okay, I have a
Yeah,
question for you. Have you ever gone into a different area, different neighborhood, and then because of the podcast, they'll be like, "Hey, man, it's you." Like, do you ever like have those
yeah.
experiences? And
Like, I'm. It's
and
flattery.
like, right, 100%, right? And through that, they share maybe like something in their neighborhood or things like that that maybe like never got a chance to experience, but because of this thing, you get to see a glimpse of a world that maybe otherwise wouldn't have been available.
Yeah, I
You
have,
know.
and that's why I feel guilty that you know I wish I could accommodate them. You know, I'm just one guy. That's the
I
missing
relate to that.
aspect of this. No, I am fully self-aware that I need, because I'm not good with the other stuff, so I have to have somebody like have to arrange that for me. And that's why my whole deal is like I have to make this a community now so that I can channel these other missing parts into that, and then
Mm,
just be a positive force. Don't be a douche. Provide provide as much positive energy to whatever platform. And there's this one other platform here who like also does the same thing I do, but on a bigger, grander scale. Just saw the potential that what Huge Upside was, and then we started off doing this. Like, the recent contents you'd find on our IG is this project that we have. It's called Sam Talks. So like we just feature on like the local scene again, like artists, filmmakers, and people along those lines, creatives. And this is just this is the fruits of what Huge Upside was about. Like, it had another branch. We provided
fire.
another podcast for a platform who I saw like they should have a podcast, and I'm going to show them
Mm,
how. And this is how you do it. But I
mm.
wish though that what my dilemma is, like I keep having this imposter syndrome. Like, I don't want to host this stuff anymore. Like, I just want to do stuff like behind the scenes, like operating and all that. But and just be a guest every now and then. You know how that feels. Like, I just wish somebody would guest me. Like,
Oh,
let's get that guy on the show. But
yeah.
that means if nobody wants me on, that means I haven't done enough. And if
Uh,
that happens, it sounds very vain and narcissistic, but I I want to communicate at the bigger scale the things I believe in, like supporting the local scene, doing stuff like DIY, like still do stuff DIY despite like your ability to you have the cash flow, but still keep it DIY, and all that stuff.
100%.
I want to have that on a bigger,
100%.
grander scale. That's why I work so hard to put this content out. That one day, like I hope one day it lands on somebody's ears, and they resonate with it, and hopefully I get featured on some other shows so I can get to communicate and scale the message of these local communities much bigger. If I could help
Yeah,
them that
yeah.
way.
Yeah. Okay, I have a question then. So from what I'm hearing, local community is very important for you creating that platform and that sort of thing, right? If you were almost to say if there's a tone or a message or a voice for your community that you'd like to kind of put out there, like what is that message for you, you know? And what are you kind of hearing in your community that you think the world needs to hear? Because you're in a very unique space where like you've heard so many voices in
Yep,
your
sure.
community, so you're almost like you're receiving all the different energies, so you kind of see the trends.
Yeah, I'm glad you pointed that out because I'm receiving so much, and this probably in this form of podcast or platform, I can get to regurgitate that information. Like I just process that stuff and
Yeah.
synthesize it, and then just vomit it out here. Like, but if there was a,
You're the voice of the people,
I
bro.
hope so. I mean, like I have to aspire.
You're
Like
able.
somebody asked me, like, "What you just arrived back in the Philippines and you're doing all this stuff now? Like, what makes you do it?" Like I keep telling them, like, I want to be the goat of this in our local community. I have to deploy
I
that
love it.
mindset because I'm not just competing with podcasters. Podcasters are my freaking allies, like they're my friends, they're my community. I'm competing with other creatives in other types of forms of media, like influencers or vloggers, right? So like I'm competing this
Oh,
space against
okay.
them. If I was Coca-Cola, like Pepsi's not my main concern. My main concern is like how do I provide more happiness to the people, right? So my competitors are
Yeah.
not beverages. So going back to your question, if there was one word, I mean, if it could be packaged in one word, just be yourself. That's it. I want to go
Mm.
back to that because we sometimes like we don't follow through with what we want or what we can do or what we're able to do because it's what we do is not practically accepted where we are. So especially what I do is something which is very radical. It's very new. It's a very open platform, and nobody does that here. When they do it though, it's very I believe it's very transactional. There's some money involved,
Mm.
and they talk about there's stuff they can't talk about. I want to be we want this to be the platform where people get to talk about stuff that aren't welcomed elsewhere. And if being themselves isn't welcome elsewhere, that's the platform. That's huge upside. And what we'd like to instill to people is, bro, be you. You know, that's it.
Fire. Okay, okay. Quick follow-up
Sure.
question because I'm just
No,
curious
what?
now.
I
So,
like
like, number
this
one,
because this could be
fire.
another episode of you talking to me. Like you could be the guy interviewing me.
Yeah.
I love these types of scenarios because I don't get that.
Ah,
I
okay,
don't get
fire.
this a
Yeah,
lot,
bro.
bro. I need this.
Bro, also like, I feel like this is such a like cool opportunity to get a glimpse of your world and also share that and make that more known
Oh,
too. So I think
thanks.
this is very cool. You mentioned that like there's certain things that like people can't talk about on other platforms where they can
Right.
specifically talk about on yours. Are there any like specific
Oh,
examples
for
of that?
sure.
Could just,
Like gender, all that stuff. The gender movement,
uh,
LGBTQ. I believe that space has already carved its has already set foot here, but I think there's still a lot of discrimination going on,
uh,
and also the folks who are in these spaces, the LGBTQ, there needs to be a bridge between them and the generations that shit on them. I feel like that's my responsibility to
uh,
provide context for both sides. Like, hey, I get you, you feel this way, but let's not forget that those guys, the old heads or your parents, they lived in this context and that's how they were raised. So we always have to be the bigger person.
mm,
That and also plus the artists. I always feel that artists like are underrated and they don't get appreciated. Like,
uh,
I guess that. I guess those
yeah.
things.
Yeah, yeah. I hear you on both things because it's like a, okay. Um, I'm like processing what you're
Right.
saying. So like, I feel like this is also another kind of cool place that you're in because of the unique position that you've been placed in. You are almost like a crossroads for so many different communities and stories,
Oh man, you
right?
could have you can't you
Yeah.
could have said it any better. That's it. Like this is the crossover of everything. Everything's overlapping. You know. S-
Right? And with a lot of these communities, maybe historically or traditionally, this community's over here, this community's over here, and like they don't interact
Yeah.
with each other. So it can create some like tension between different communities. And because you're interacting with both, you're in this rare
Yeah.
position where you could actually say, hey, these things you guys are talking about, these things you guys are talking about, hey, like I'm not saying you guys have to be best friends, but like, hey, like here's some ideas from the other side that, hey, did you think about this? Hey, here's some ideas from the other side. Did
Yeah.
you ever think about this? And then once they think about it a little bit, maybe there's an opportunity for one person from one community to talk to another person, and like, you know what I'm saying, build some understanding. Is it, like, I don't know, just from what I'm hearing, you have such an amazing position to begin to explore ideas between different communities, even
Yeah.
within this local
You know
community,
what?
you know?
You couldn't have coined it better. Like it's the crossroads of everything. It's like everything's overlapping. Because I always thought like I was like a product of a lot of influences. Like I'm a product of mainstream, but I'm very passionate about the underground. Like I'm a boomer, but I love youth energy and Gen Zs and Gen Alphas. I'm 35, but I think like I'm 17 or 15. You know what? And I I'm like I'm stocky. I'm not built athletic, but I know I'm good at sports. Like I can bully my way to a basketball court. You know, I'm
Let's
so many
go.
different things. You know, like what a human being should be, and the fact that we get to box human beings to like a label. No, like we can be both. We can be everything. Like who's stopping us from being something, right? Like,
100%.
like I would if there was like if I was had a purpose aside from this platform, like of course aside from my family, of course they're the priority. But if I had another purpose, like if I was if they would choose me as to be the ambassador of that, like I would gladly take it. Like I'm weird in a way. I'm very weird. Like I grew up awkward my whole life, and then finally got accepted by a group of friends who never like was always into what was cool and all that. But I got finally got accepted because I worked for it. I worked hard for it. I wanted their validation, but in the end, that wasn't what was really making me happy.
Mm-hmm.
But I through that I learned how to understand like different communities. But not to say like I'm an expert already. Like there's so many
Yeah.
ways we can learn. Like there's so many things I can learn from this world. And one thing for sure is we're all unique and different. And huge upside is also that platform where all things collide. We had this saying
Mm.
saying in
That's
the intro in the podcast before. We changed it already, but I should bring it back on. Where it's a space where all things collide. Like, you know, like because life is
I like that.
dynamic and unique like that, right? It's not
I really like that
it's not
catchphrase.
really like one dimensional. There's so many
Yeah,
angles to a different to a human being. Right? You can look at him that way, and if you
100%.
choose to look at him bad, then you'll see is bad. And if you choose to look at them
Mm-hmm.
good, what you'll see is good. If you choose to see the mistakes, then
Mm.
you'll be stuck with the mistakes. If you always see the opportunity, then you're stuck with the opportunity. If you only choose
Yeah.
to listen to your
And I think the key
bubble,
word is all
uh,
those things can exist in one
right?
person. Oh, sorry, my
Yeah, I
fault.
mean,
Yeah.
if you choose to be in a bubble, then you won't hear what other people say, right? If you always hear what other people say, then you won't have a strong set of ideas for yourself, like for yourself. I mean, there's so many angles to a human being. That's why it's so interesting to have podcasts, because like you'd understand. Like I didn't know that people could think this way, right? Wow. And plus, you get to understand yourself a bit
Um,
more.
100%. Yeah, because we see it in context of the world and stuff. That's fire, bro. I don't know that worlds collide. I'm just putting it out
Ah,
there, just like that.
I always
Yeah.
thought like,
Y-
what
y-
if one day I could be an artist? Like I always thought about that, growing up.
What would be your voice? Like if you were to say, "Hey, this is the voice and the platform and the message I put out," like
Well, what do you mean like voice? Like how I would sound like, or the message of my songs?
the message, like that you would want to share.
Sounds so cliche, but love, love and positivity. I guess that would be it.
I mean, there's a reason why it's
And
powerful,
also
man.
like I also have a lot of dark insecurities and dark shit. So I'd still like to channel them into the songs, but at the same time, I
Mm,
probably
mm,
have to work so hard not to be taken out of context because I also have this like other side of me,
mm.
like I just wanna be mean and all that. But guess that makes us human.
That's a part of expression
Yeah,
too. Like also I want to be clear, like what when I said earlier, like like expressing good energy and stuff like that. Like expressing good energy also means acknowledging that we get
right.
angry, acknowledging that we do get mad. You know what I mean? And I think it's healthy to express that out there. I mean, you're gonna hear a few aggressive Pizza Palace
Oh,
tracks,
really?
in the future. So
Yeah.
like we got the full range of
I mean, it
experiences
has
that
to be
we,
right.
we have to let it be
It
known.
has to be. I mean,
100%.
how else can you
That's
have to have like a full range of emotions curated into the song.
yeah,
Makes it more relatable, right?
yeah, yeah. 100%. 100%.
Hey, how are you
So
doing?
that's cool. Well, shoot, if
What?
you're
What?
my
You
fault.
were saying?
No, I was gonna say, like, if you ever come out with an album, bro,
Ah,
like let me join the listening
oh my
party.
god, I don't even know because I'm no bro. I have to tell you, to be honest, I used to be like a very purist guy, and I grew up from the '90s, so like I love me some alternative music and I never loved boom bap and hip hop or trap. It's just something that recently I developed a taste for because I'm in this space now, and
Oh,
that's the current
yeah.
culture of society is hip hop. So like as
Oh,
human beings, I think we're empty containers, and we adjust to the current culture. In the '90s, or even back in '70s and '60s, like rock was demonized, like you worship the devil or like all that stuff. And then hip hop came along, and Tupac was like demonized for his lyrics and all that stuff. And now they became accepted, and I think I'm just a product of what's the current culture, which is hip hop. So I like hip hop, but if I was to put out a song, I'm not sure I would do a hip hop track. But who's to say I can't do it? Maybe I will.
uh,
I don't know.
that's creative process is just
Cookies did
enjoying
it, right?
things. With a stop motion music video, bro.
Oh, that would be fire. I don't know. That's such a long time ago. Oh my god, having flashbacks.
Okay, one of the first album covers I ever did before in the past. I was like looking for designers and things like that, and like I just couldn't match the budget. Or this is like a long time ago, right? Couldn't match the budget or all this stuff, and I was like, "Fuck! Like, how am I gonna get like the visuals together?" And then when I was a kid, I think like in elementary, middle school, I was that kid who used to draw pictures all the time and stuff. And the kids would come around to the tables like, "What are you drawing?" And I would like sell them, like
Right,
put them as binder covers, and that's how I would buy cookies at school and stuff. And anyways, that's like a
right.
different story, right? But I hadn't drawn for years, right? And I was like, man, you know what? I'm just gonna make something myself. And then I made it, and then that's actually the cover that went super viral, like back in the
Oh,
day. So
right,
um, yeah, so it's like it's just interesting. It's like, hey, it's a part of our lives. Like whatever we want to share from our history and things like that. It's on us if we feel comfortable
right.
to share out there in the world because it's very
Yeah,
personal too. These experiences, but it's kind of like it's there. And I think that's uniquely what makes us special. I make the argument that like I'm an up and coming artist, right? like I mean I've done time in the industry and things like that, so in the industry circles, like I have like a good rapport and all this stuff, right? But to the public eye, I'm a new
Yeah.
name, right? So the thing is that I don't have the same, like I have I wouldn't say I have the most resources, but I have like enough to where I can start testing the waters and things like that, and with some
Have the
flexibility. But I don't
leverage
have
to
like a
do what you
Jay-Z
want.
level
Yeah.
of, yeah, I have some leverage to do what I want, but not like the level of a Jay-Z
Right.
or things like that, right? So it's like if I want to eventually achieve to that level, it's kind of like I also think about the
Right.
marketplace, right? In some ways, I can't compete with Jay-Z because his market budget and like how big his influence and his relationships and connections and things like that. But there's one area that Jay-Z can't compete with me in, and what it is authenticity to
Right.
me, authenticity to my
Right.
community, and authenticity to this core circle that we've developed and
Right.
built. Because we've had to earn every single one of these
True.
relationships and have that history. So we have all these stories that we know with so much depth that like a Jay Z can't tap into. Just like I can't tap into Jay Z
Right.
stories. He has all these, but that's how he built his brand, by the unique stories that
Yeah.
we each have, and I feel like that's our strengths. So we play to our strengths every single
Your
time, you
equity.
know. So
You know. Yeah.
ooh, I like that, bro.
But you know what?
Equity.
You did your time, but here's the most more exciting part of it is that the you get to start over again. So like wholly reinventing yourself. You know, like that feeling of discovering a new passion, of like having a new crush, or like you're always passionate about the feeling. I can't wait to go get home, like do this, or I can't wait till my job is finished so I can do this. So that feeling of like do you're starting over with something new is so beta. I
Yeah.
love that feeling, that beta, and that's I have to say, like I tried to start a clothing brand that has that mantra, the beta mantra, because you know that exciting part at the start. It's how would you say that? You fall in love with it. You know, at the
Mm-hmm.
start,
Mm-hmm.
but the challenge is like keeping up with it. Like, how do you keep that same
Mm-hmm.
level of intensity? You know what I'm saying? So that's the challenge of, I think,
Uh,
starting something new. And I bet you have an idea already because you've worked with artists. So that you're in such a unique position too. Because you know what, you get to do something you like, and the feeling of starting it. There's nothing like it. There's nothing like starting again.
yeah, it's a fun slate, and like, and also touching on what you mentioned with like keeping the consistency. It's like in those moments, it's like uh I told myself that like if I'm gonna do music and really give it a shot, there has to be a reason that's bigger than
Right.
myself. Because it's like there's so many other ways where we can give ourselves things and whatever, but like specifically for music, I have to give to myself so I can give to other people. That's going to be my end goal, because my end goal is bigger than me. So like for me, I know been so many times in this creative process where it's been so
Right.
uncomfortable. I've had to make so many sacrifices, maybe not sleep. Shout out to the song
Oh
Sacrifices, by the
yeah.
way. If you haven't heard it
You
yet, check it
and
out. It's on
JWolf,
Spotify
right?
right now. You know, yeah, JWolf
Cookies
and
too.
Cookies too.
Yeah.
So like, um, but yeah, like we have to give up so many sacrifices in terms of time, hanging out,
Right.
fun, and like all this stuff to just kind of sit and work on our craft. That doesn't get shown out, in the public, and like not even get acknowledged. We have to get like 50 no's, like to just kind of understand
Get a
how to
lot of
like develop a
rejection.
team and all these different things. 100%, right? And people, and then dealing with the disappointment with ourselves, or maybe trying to build a team with other people, and like there's like so many things where it could just kind of like chip away at our energy, right? And so in those moments, the feeling's not that same feeling of I love music, and
Right.
you get what I'm saying. The feeling is just
It's
full of
hard to keep
disappointment and
that, man.
sadness. And 100%. So what I tell myself in those moments is like, hey, what was my purpose for doing
Right.
music? And I think about all the people. Like I think of the kid that I was when like I didn't really have anyone to turn to, and like all I could listen to was musicians and things like that to get my mind in a healthier place. And I said, there's at least one or two kids out there who are having that same experience right now that are waiting for something to acknowledge them. Like there's a kid out there, and all of a sudden I'm like, bro, like my problems don't really mean that much. Like I'm stressed out about these things because but like there's kids out there who need like a lot of support, and I'm just like, I got
Right.
to keep going, and that's what I plug into. So it's like if I am giving things up and I take care of myself enough to where I'm
Yeah.
functional, but I also know that, hey, I also have to give up a lot of things. And that's what, for me, that's what I center. Everyone has a different reason why they do things, right? But for me, I center myself around that core experience. And that keeps me going. And then after that, I have to start creating. I got to start producing,
Yeah.
man.
The
Just
process. Yeah.
yeah,
That's what you're after.
the process and all that
Hey
stuff.
man, like I
So
really enjoyed talking to you, and wow, we had a good run there. It's like 2 hours.
like what?
I don't know how the hell I'm gonna chop this up.
Oh
I'm gonna
wow.
chop this up, but we'll find a way.
Yeah,
We can just leave it
yeah.
as it
We
is.
got, we
Yeah,
got some
and hey, like we do have like a question on the show. So the name of the show is Huge Upside, and you know, to me, if folks ask me, it's vague. Like you can have a meaning to it. So I'd like to ask you, what's your own definition of a huge upside? What's your huge upside?
Oh, okay. I'll give a general answer and then I'll give like a personal
Go.
answer. So I want to say that whatever that your goal is or your vision is, there's always going to be a huge upside available there, even if you don't see it. So if you don't see what the huge upside is of whatever your goal is and things like that, figure it out because it's probably sitting there. The way I see it is like a lot of people like here's a metaphor. If I'm sitting on one side of a grassy hill, there's a huge cliff, and then there's all this amazing food on the other side, and I need food, right? And I see like a tree, an axe, and then some rope. A lot of people be like, man, it's impossible to get that food. I'm just stuck over here. I'm like, bro, you could use the axe, chop the tree down, build some wood, build a bridge with the rope. You get what I'm saying? And the huge upside is you got some food. Just put in some effort, bro. It's like right there. But some people don't even want to look across. So for everyone, like it's possible. You have the resources around you. It's going to take a little bit of time. It's tiring to chop down the tree. It's tiring to build that bridge, but like there's a huge upside on the other side. So that's my general answer.
Not for the exciting.
Uh, Damn, I should have just said that last. That sounded kind of cool, huh? Like I should
Nah,
have I should have ended on that.
nah. You
Then I've been
probably
like,
have
cut.
something
Dang,
else. You
so
probably have
deep.
something else though,
That
like
type
a more
of
specific.
yeah, for me, the huge upside, honestly, it's the same stuff as what we were talking about before. Like, I believe that our generation specifically, um, we're taught to be individually great and individually like we have to have skill sets. I feel like our community's huge upside is to begin to build healthy ways of seeing each other, healthy ways of talking with each other. So collectively, we can hit that legendary status. So like when I talk about um, like our local communities and our neighborhoods, hey, like if you're a musician out there, hey, I do music. Hey, there's a producer out there somewhere who's looking for a musician. You guys start working together and build collectively. And that's a struggle in itself. How do you communicate? How do you give feedback? How do I acknowledge the other person's feelings? And like, there's a whole skill set there, right? And so, my personal huge upside is if we can build that for our community, like, they can't stop us, bro. So, like, we just need to do that. So, that's what I'm trying to do through the music.
And there you have
So,
it. Pizza Palace, packaged in 2 hours in this episode. Thanks, brother. You know what? The moment you
thank
sent
you,
me the
bro.
message, I was like really flattered. Wow, here's another one. This is the like the validation of the process that we was looking for is that more folks come to the show. You know, I it's more probably like not of an audience type of show. It's more of like the guest and the platform kind of show. It's like you know what you call this, a therapy session or an online crash course or like a free education, you would call it something like that, for both parties. Like we get to learn y- different angles of you, and us ourselves get to learn more about another side of a human being, which is Pizza Palace was about to drop another song, which is Butter, this February 17th.
Butter, check it out, February 17th. And thank you, bro. I appreciate your energy and everything always, bro.
You're welcome, brother. And I have to say, man, we've had taken these guests for a long ride, but that was a fun chat. I have to say goodbye.
Likewise.
And hey, like, hit me up anytime, or if I have some questions,